Chapter 172. After the medical ninja meeting ended, Naruto, Tsunade, Shizune, and Kazama Hanatsuki left first. Everyone stood up and saluted. After Naruto left, many people patted the shoulder of the person who was looking for trouble and said with a smirk, "Brother, for the sake of being colleagues for so many years, can you lend me your wife?" The man's face turned green. Then another person came over, "I don't want the one you've used, just lend me your daughter." The man finally couldn't help it and shouted angrily, "Get out!" The crowd dispersed, and the boat of friendship capsized. If there was a reason, it would be that he angered Tsunade's disciple. In these people's eyes, this guy's future was already gone. If he stayed with this kind of person, he would only be implicated. So instead of lamenting that society was too realistic, it was better to lament that he was too stupid. Someone gossiped as they walked, "His wife seems to be Sannin, right? No wonder he's fighting for Sannin." Someone next to him complained, "I've heard that if you have a stepmother, you will have a stepfather, but I've never heard that if you marry a wife from another country, you'll side with outsiders." Someone next to him complained, "They say that girls are extroverted, could it be his attributes are actually that of a girl?" The female doctor couldn't stand it, "How did us girls offend you?" The man quickly replied, "It's a good thing for women to be extroverted, really." The female doctor rolled her eyes and asked, "Little Naruto, you're almost 40, right?" The man froze for a moment. Naruto was his nickname, then nodded. The female doctor mocked, "Serves you right for being single until now." The medical ninja called Naruto almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. After everyone left, the medical ninja stood in place for a long time, his eyes red, and cursed, "What the hell? Damn little Baldy, if I get rich, I'll kill you." A cold wind suddenly blew, and silently, a long sword was placed across the man's throat. Jealousy can make people ugly, but even if you're jealous, you shouldn't show it so obviously. Are you retarded? Or is there something wrong with your head? Naruto's mouth spat out cold air, and that person's left ear was immediately frozen into ice. By the time he came to his senses, his body was already trembling like a sieve due to fear, especially his left ear that had lost all feeling and the sword that was pressed against his throat. He said in disbelief, You, don't scare me. This is Woodleaf. Even if you are Naruto's disciple, you wouldn't dare to kill me." The green-sleeve sword slid slightly. The green-sleeve sword that could even cut steel into tofu easily cut a wound that was neither long nor short, neither deep nor shallow, on that person's neck. Dark red blood began to flow out, but it did not cut into the artery, so the blood did not spurt out and flowed very slowly. That person's body trembled, and as his wound came into contact with the green-sleeve sword, his blood flowed even faster. Feeling the blood begin to flow down from his skin, the last bit of courage left was swallowed up by fear, and he cried and begged for mercy. "Don't kill me, I was wrong, please don't kill me," Naruto said calmly. "Of course I won't kill you, you're right, even if I'm Naruto's disciple, I wouldn't dare to kill you easily. I just came back to remind you that I'm very dangerous, you have to respect me, otherwise—" The green-sleeve sword swung, dang. That was the sound of the frozen ear falling on the table. "Even if I don't kill you, it's not a big deal to lose an ear or an arm." The green-sleeve sword returned to its scabbard, there was no trace of blood on the sword, it was very clean. Naruto turned and left, waving goodbye. "You're also a medical ninja, right? It's not difficult to sew your ear back, just be careful of the cold air on it." Naruto left. That medical ninja cried bitterly and grabbed his ear, but the next moment, his hand was frozen on his ear. He began to ask for help in horror. Naruto returned to Tsunade's side. Tsunade rolled her eyes and motioned to the screams upstairs. "You did it." Naruto smiled and said, "I didn't do anything excessive, I just cut off his ear. Don't worry, I helped to refrigerate it before cutting it off. If it's handled properly, it's no different from before." "Cut it off and refrigerated it?" Next to them, Shizune's mouth twitched, and she screamed in her heart, "That's a human ear. Do you think it's a pig's ear?" Tsunade sighed and said, "Can't you change your vengeful temper? Didn't that person show a little dissatisfaction because of jealousy? Just break a few bones, do you have to cut off the ear? Go, put that person's ear back. Woodleaf Medical Ninja can only use these 30 or so ears. Naruto said awkwardly, I'll go. I just said some harsh words. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if I go back now? Besides, even if his ear can't be put back, I can put a fake ear. Don't worry, it's guaranteed to be the same as the real one, he said and winked cutely. Shizen's little face turned black like a coal ball when she heard this sentence. She subconsciously touched her ear. Very good, the ear is still there, and it's original. She thought to herself, it's better not to provoke Naruto in the future. What if one day this kid's head went crazy and he dislocated his ear and then compensated with a fake one? That scene is really too cruel. Tsunade glared at Naruto and said to Shizen, Shizen, go and take a look. If it was in the past, Shizen wouldn't clean up Naruto's mess, but today she felt a little cold standing next to Naruto. Especially that bald guy, most of the credit was because of her. So she agreed and quickly left with Tough, whose ears were also cold. Tough thought of the fart he let out. Are the pig ears still there? Tough found a pair of fat pig ears and confirmed. Yep, they're still there. After Shizen went upstairs again, Tsunade said to Hana Fujita, is there anyone in the new Woodleaf generation who is more talented in medical ninjutsu worth training? Hana Fujita pointed at Naruto. This one. Naruto smiled proudly. Tsunade rolled her eyes. Of course she knew this. Other than this one? Hana Fujita thought seriously and then shook her head. No, the others are too bad. Tsunade, how bad? Hana Fujita thought seriously and said with certainty, so bad that it's impossible to compare. Tsunade pointed at Naruto and said to Hana Fujita, the comparison you're talking about, is with him? Hana Fujita said naturally, yes. Naruto secretly gave Hana Fujita a thumbs up. Hana Fujita returned one to him. This scene naturally didn't escape Tsunade's sight, and she couldn't help but roll her eyes again. At this time, Naruto said, there are still some who are not bad. Hana-sensei's requirements are too high. Too high was a fact, and Tsunade knew it. But when this sentence was finally said by Naruto, it tasted strange, and that smug, narcissistic stinging to the eyes. Naruto continued, Sakura Haruno's talent in medical ninjutsu is not bad. Although the other female ninjas in the other teams are not as good as Sakura Haruno, they should be able to respond to emergencies in the team after some training. Finally, he added, Sakura Haruno is the pink-haired girl who went to the office to look for you that day. Tsunade raised her eyebrows. The one because of Sasuke? Naruto nodded. Yes, that's the one. Chapter 173. When Tsunade heard Naruto's recommendation, she subconsciously asked, how's that compare to you? Then she shook her head. All right, pretend I didn't ask. Naruto and Hana exchanged a smile. The two of them gave each other a thumbs up and smiled mischievously. At this moment, Shizen's roar came from upstairs. Naruto. You bastard, come up here. The three of them looked at each other and rushed upstairs at the same time. Tsunade couldn't help but ask, are you sure it's just an ear? Shizen's voice makes me feel like I found a corpse. Hana also looked at Naruto. Naruto complained, can a corpse cry for help? That's indeed impossible. When they returned to the conference room, the three of them saw a very funny scene, but they couldn't laugh. Shizen's hand, and that man's hand were frozen on his ear. Shizen shouted at Naruto, Naruto, you did it on purpose. Naruto expressed his innocence and couldn't help but complain, are you retarded? You obviously saw that man's hand was frozen on his ear, so why didn't you wrap your hand with chakra first? Shizen wanted to say that she already wrapped his hand with chakra, but she was afraid of hurting his organs, so she didn't wrap too much. But now wasn't the time to think about this, so she urged, don't just stand there and make sarcastic remarks. Hurry up and get rid of your cold. Naruto was about to walk over when he noticed that Tsunade's body was trembling. Her face was pale and she looked terrified. And Tsunade's line of sight was the blood on that man's body. Hemophobia. Tsunade's hemophobia hasn't recovered yet? Naruto used his body to block Tsunade's line of sight. At this time, Hana also noticed that something was wrong with Tsunade and asked worriedly, Naruto-sama, what's going on? Naruto picked up Tsunade and brought her to the empty room next door. Hana followed behind and wanted to ask more, but Naruto waved his hand and shut up. Tsunade took a few deep breaths and calmed down a lot. No. Don't worry about me. First. Before Tsunade could finish, Naruto nodded and said, I'll go now. He then said to Hana Fujin, take care of them for a while. I'll be back soon. Returning to the previous room, Naruto raised his hand and knocked the man unconscious. Then, he controlled the ice element chakra to dissipate. Only then did Mute's hand leave her ear. If he muted Chakra's voice, he would be able to break free, but that would definitely hurt this guy's ears. Naruto placed the ear of the Dao integration stage cultivator. Chakra's scalpel sliced off a thin layer of necrotic cells before placing the ear back together. Chakra's needle sewed the ear back together in a few strokes. Does Tsunade-ne-san have hemophobia? Naruto asked while treating her. Mute hesitated for a moment before nodding. N. Although she wanted to keep it a secret, she couldn't keep it a secret for long. Naruto continued, I forgot where I read that hemophobia is a type of psychological illness. If you want to treat it, apart from removing the knot in your heart, you can also use the exposure method. That is, use blood to stimulate the senses, get used to it, and finally use willpower to overcome the psychological barrier. Mute was pleasantly surprised. Where did you read that? She paused for a moment, then remembered that Naruto said he forgot, so she changed her question. Can you find that book? Naruto said half-heartedly, in the library, but the library has already been burned down. There was such a book. There was indeed such a book, but it wasn't in this world. When they returned to Tsunade's side again, Tsunade's condition was much better. She could now speak normally. She was just a little depressed. Hana Fujin guessed a little, but she wisely didn't ask any more questions. Then, under Tsunade's insistence, they went to the special sanatorium according to the original plan. Naruto had already received the information about the sanatorium situation. The number of disabled people was 57, 35 ninjas, and 22 civilians. Apart from being disabled, 18 of them had different degrees of disfigurement on their faces. Of the 18 people, 5 were ninjas, and 13 were civilians. In the director's office of the special sanatorium, Hana Fujin sighed. It's a pity that the artificial limbs are useless for the other 22 civilians. Naruto replied, There's no rush. Who knows, maybe we'll be able to develop artificial limbs that can move without chakra in the future. Hana Fujin rolled her eyes. How can they move without chakra? Naruto chuckled. Don't we still have electricity? But when it came to electronic machinery, Naruto didn't know shit about it. If they wanted to develop artificial limbs that could be powered by electricity, Naruto wouldn't be able to do it. Unless he transmigrated back and took a few more doctorates before coming back. He would have to bring his current memories back. Naruto's memories from the past were too horrible to look at. His CET, 4 English was so bad that he almost killed himself. While they were chatting, Kodo knocked on the door and walked in. He stood up straight like a soldier who was being inspected. Moreover, he was in high spirits. What's the result? Naruto asked, but from the excited expression on Kodo's face, Naruto more or less knew the answer. Kodo, only 3 people are unwilling to accept the artificial limbs. The other 32 people expressed their willingness to continue working for Woodleaf. Willing to work for Woodleaf? Naruto asked back, What did you say? I didn't say anything about continuing to work for Woodleaf. I just asked if they were willing to accept the artificial limbs and get out of this damned place. You can start again. Forget it, take me there. Kodo was stunned. He stammered, Didn't you say, you want to modify them to be able to fight? Naruto rolled his eyes and replied, I'm just talking about the future. Who asked you to go out and fight? Besides, who knows how many years you've been cooped up here? Do you still have any fighting power? This sentence wasn't meant to be sarcastic, but it was the truth. Kodo's back instantly bowed. He was a little regretful. If he knew that there would be a day when he could go out and live like a normal person, he wouldn't have wasted so many years. Then he thought about it and reminded, those people have a bit of a temper. Naruto said indifferently, I like to cure people with a bad temper. Why? In Naruto's view, most people with bad tempers were asking for a beating. Of course, the premise was that he could beat others. After Naruto and Kodo left, Hana Fujita asked Tsunade, you didn't give them the artificial limbs to fight? Tsunade replied in Naruto's words, do they still have any fighting power? Hana Fujita choked. In Hana Fujita's view, even fighting was better than being isolated from the world. This was why she supported Naruto's plan. If they knew that they were really going out to live like ordinary people, of course, it would be better. The new generation of Naruto was a good person, and Naruto was also a good person. After the 2 good person cards were sent out, Hana Fujita was worried again. She wanted to say something but hesitated, then can they integrate into the ordinary people when they go out? Tsunade smiled confidently, if this question was asked a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer it, but I can say with certainty now that they will integrate. Where did the confidence come from? This was thanks to Naruto. Naruto had a property under his name, and this property was lacking people. To be precise, it was 3 properties. The ninja store's land was more than twice as large as before, and it was built on 3 floors. There was definitely a shortage of people. There was also a 3-floor movie-themed pastry shop, plus a 3-floor luxury casino. 35 people might not even be enough. Naruto and Kodo walked into the depths of the nursing home and into a large garden. The person inside heard the footsteps of the 2 and said impatiently, I already said that I don't want to accept that bullshit artificial limb. If you don't know what's good for you and bother me, I'll kill you. A woman. Well, a very, very beautiful woman. Wearing a white dress, golden curly hair with a large bow, and a snow-white round sun hat. It was just that this woman was sitting in a wheelchair. But even if she was sitting in a wheelchair, Naruto could feel a strong sense of danger from her. This feeling came from Chakra's restless body. And a murderous gaze. Naruto suddenly wondered who would hit who if he got angry. So, it was better not to get angry. So he suddenly put on a sweet smile on his face and said sweetly, Sister, don't be angry, I just wanted to visit sister. Gu Teng had originally walked in with his head held high and his body full of killing intent. Naruto's sudden change made him feel awkward. His head turned 100 degrees as if it was clockwork, and he turned to look at Naruto. Naruto smiled. Kodo's heart flashed 2 words at this smile, so cheap. Chapter 174. Naruto's sudden change in expression caught the people inside off guard, and when they saw that it was still a little guy, the fierceness in their eyes faded. But their tone was still indifferent. Who are you? If it was that stupid Jiraiya, he would definitely shout, that's a good question, and then give a long list of names that would make everyone stunned. Naruto didn't think that he was that stupid, so he simply said, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I invented that prosthetic limb. But there's a misunderstanding, I want to make it clear in advance. The prosthetic limb is not for you to go out and continue to fight, it's just for the convenience of your life. The woman stared at Naruto's eyes for a while, and seeing that his expression didn't seem to be fake, she nodded. Oh, that's the case, it's good that you don't continue to go out and fight for those scum. But I'm not interested in the prosthetic limb you developed, you can go. Naruto nodded and turned to leave. At this moment, if she could, Kodo would definitely despise Naruto. He came in a hurry and left in a hurry, without bringing a fart. But just as he was about to step out of the garden's iron gate, the girl hiding in the flowers suddenly said, Wait, I'm very interested in that prosthetic limb of yours. The woman in the wheelchair shouted, Little Gunny. Then another one jumped down from the tree. I'm also very interested. The woman in the wheelchair complained, Why is Big Gunny also joining in the fun? After saying that, she said sadly, You don't want me anymore. Then, she started to cry. This time, it was Naruto's turn to turn around like a clockwork. 3 girls. The one who jumped out of the flowers was shorter than Naruto, wearing a light yellow dress, and looked like a little loli. She only had 1 arm and 1 leg. The body of the person who jumped down from the tree was similar to Kazama Hana, with slender legs, but no arms. The 3 of them had the same hair color, as if they were 3 sisters. However, other than the one in the wheelchair, the other 2 had short hair. A person with a pair of slender legs walked past the wheelchair, ignoring the sobbing of the person in the wheelchair. She said coldly, "Put away your cheap tears. This is the 38th time today. I've heard it so many times that my ears are going to grow calluses." 38 times? Naruto looked at the person in the wheelchair in amazement. Women were indeed made of water. However, Naruto was more concerned about the fact that he had admitted defeat in front of this woman who had cried 38 times in one day. How embarrassing. He really wanted to crawl into a crack in the ground. On the other side, the little loli hopped over on 1 leg. She was a little cute, but no matter who saw her, they couldn't laugh. He would only feel heartache. With only 1 hand and 1 leg, her life must be very difficult. The woman with long legs was the first to approach Naruto. She said, "Is what you said true? You won't let us fight if we accept your artificial limb?" Naruto promised, "No, I can guarantee that. As long as you don't want to fight, no one will force you." The little loli hopped over with difficulty. She pulled on Gu Teng's artificial limb and looked at it. She said enviously, "It's so convenient. If I can put it on, I can climb trees like Big Gunny." Then she stared at Gu Teng with watery eyes and said, "Big brother, can you give me your hand?" Seeing that Gu Teng was about to agree, Naruto spoke in time, "His hand is too ugly. I will make a beautiful pair of hands and feet for you according to your hand." The little loli's eyes lit up. "Really?" Naruto promised, "Really?" At this moment, the person in the wheelchair couldn't take it anymore. "What's the use of having hands and feet? It's better to sit comfortably." However, her words were ignored by everyone present. Naruto began to measure the little girl's hands and feet. It was very simple. All he needed to do was to use ice to make a copy of the little girl's original hands and feet. The little girl said shyly, "Do I have to take off my pants?" Naruto blushed, which was rare for him. He quickly said, "No." Then, the little girl obediently said, "Oh." After measuring the little girl, a frozen hand and leg appeared in Naruto's hands. The little girl wanted to touch them, but Naruto avoided her. "They're very cold. You can play with them after I make the finished product." The little girl obediently said, "Oh." Then, it was Big Gunny's turn. What should I do if I don't have hands?" Naruto asked, "Does your opponent have any special requests? If not, I'll make a set of hands and feet according to your body proportions." Big Gunny used his chin to point at the person in the wheelchair. "My hands are the same as hers, so you can just do as she says." Hearing Big Gunny's words, the person in the wheelchair instantly put his hands behind his back and said angrily, "I won't let you see my hands. You won't want me after you have hands and feet." "I know that." He had just admitted defeat to this woman. How embarrassing. Naruto replied coldly, "Sorry, I saw it just now." As he said that, a pair of arms grew out of thin air from his palms to his shoulders. The girl in the wheelchair stared at the hands that condensed in the air and compared them to her own. She said unreasonably, "You little pervert. You little pervert who doesn't learn well. Who told you to look at my hands?" Naruto's eyelids twitched. Then, he bade farewell to the other 2 people. "The arms will be done tomorrow. I'll come back then." The person in the wheelchair couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Where's mine?" "There's still me." Then, a pair of slender legs carved out of ice appeared in the sky. They were made according to Big Gunny's legs. In fact, Big Gunny's body proportions were exactly the same as the person in the wheelchair. Even the shape of his face was very similar. When the person in the wheelchair saw that there was another pair of legs, she wasn't happy and continued to shout, "You pervert. Do your eyes have X-ray vision? You actually shamelessly peeked at Big Gunny's beautiful legs. The veins on Naruto's forehead throbbed. This woman was the noisiest and most unreasonable person he had ever seen. After leaving the garden, Gu-Teng said with admiration, "You actually managed to convince them. You turned around and left just now to play hard to get, right?" Naruto curled his lips. "You're overthinking it. I was really planning to leave." Gu-Teng said in disbelief, "If you were really planning to leave, why did you come back?" Naruto looked at Gu-Teng as if he was looking at an idiot. "Because someone else needed it." Gu-Teng thought about it carefully. Naruto sighed in his heart. There was one less person he could use. This Gu-Teng was obviously a one-track mind. What kind of work could a one-track mind give him? Leave him in the casino to maintain order for fear of fighting with the customers. Leave him in Xia's pastry shop. Wrong style. I'll leave him in the store manager's place. Naruto suddenly thought that a one-track mind could be responsible for collecting money. And it just so happened that the ninja store didn't have any bargaining. Perfect. Naruto returned. Tsunade looked at the legs and arms floating around Naruto, and her eyes lit up. "They're all beautiful women, aren't they?" Naruto nodded, but then said with some uncertainty, "I guess so." Why was he uncertain? Because Naruto felt that the person in the wheelchair was very annoying. Calling her a beautiful woman would be an insult to the sacred and dignified word of beauty. If I'm going to give her a job, I'll just let her stay in the sanatorium. Why did Naruto resent this person so much? Naruto felt that his whole life's wisdom was ruined in the hands of this girl. He actually felt that this woman who cried 38 times a day was dangerous. He actually acted cute in front of a woman who cried 38 times a day. Shameful. Chapter 175. Woodleaf's night was relatively quiet. In this village of ninjas, everyone seemed to be infected with some ninja's self-discipline. When it was time, they would choose to sleep. However, there were still people who were busy. In a villa near Naruto's building, the lights in the second-floor bedroom were on. This was Tsunade's new home. It couldn't be helped. The previous house had been destroyed by Woodleaf's several times of unrest. Fortunately, Tsunade was quite carefree about this. If the old didn't go, the new wouldn't come. Coupled with the fact that the past always brought back some bad memories of the past, it actually made people feel a lot more relaxed. Tsunade sat on the bed holding a thick scroll and reading it. If Naruto was here, he would recognize this scroll as he had also read it once. Because this was the scroll of the forbidden technique. Where the scroll was unfolded, there was a complicated talisman array. If one didn't have some understanding of formations, they would feel dizzy just by looking at it. There was a note on the talisman array, which was also a brief introduction, and above it was the name of this technique, Edo Tensei. Tsunade looked at it seriously, frowning slightly, and even a little nervous. Suddenly, Tsunade's ears twitched like a frightened cat. She pressed her hand on the scroll, and the scroll quickly rolled up, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared from the bed with a bang. 2 seconds later, a figure appeared on the window. The person knocked on the window and shouted, "Open the window." Tsunade took a deep breath and calmed her nervous mood. Then she walked to the window, opened it, and kicked out, shooting the person on the window. Then she closed the window and walked out of the main door 2 minutes later. She put her hands on her waist and scolded the person on the ground who was hugging his crotch. "Can't you use the main door?" Jiraiya trembled, and his body was already bent like a shrimp. He whimpered, "Egg, egg, egg, egg." 5 minutes later, the two came to a tavern, but Jiraiya's walking posture was a bit strange. Holding his crotch. There weren't many people in the tavern, so the two found a quiet place to sit down, ordered 2 bottles of sake, and ordered some dishes. After a few glasses of wine, Jiraiya said, "I didn't expect you to get more and more beautiful." Tsunade drank the wine and replied, "You're still the same, but I'm not interested in you." Jiraiya rolled his eyes and said, "Humph, same to you." Then, he filled it with wine and downed a few more cups. Jiraiya looked at the wine in the glass and whispered, I found out what you asked me to check. The 3 ninja stores that left do have some connection with that one. It can even be said that they are opened by the same person. Tsunade drank a cup and replied, What about the identity of that person? Jiraiya shook his head slightly. I didn't find anything. Tsunade continued, What about the 2 girls? Jiraiya shook his head again. I didn't find anything. After a pause, he continued, They came from the outside. I've decided to leave Woodleaf tomorrow and go out to investigate. I'll also look for information on that organization. Tsunade's hand that was twisting the glass slightly paused and asked, How long will it take? Jiraiya wasn't sure. At least a few months, but if I haven't found anything in 3 months, I'll come back. Tsunade nodded, That's good, we can still make it in time for the opening. Speaking of opening, Jiraiya rolled his eyes and said, You're still messing around. Opening a casino in Woodleaf, only you can do this kind of thing. Tsunade said indifferently, What are you afraid of? When Grandpa was here, there were several casinos in Woodleaf. Tsunade's grandpa was naturally the first Dame Naruto. Jiraiya curled his lips when he talked about him. Legend has it that he was a bigger fat sheep than Tsunade. The people who opened casinos took the initiative to open their casinos in Woodleaf. The 2 drank several cups of wine and didn't know how many cups they drank. Jiraiya said drunkenly, After I leave, I'll leave Naruto to you. Tsunade replied drunkenly, He's my apprentice. Perhaps the alcohol was too strong. Jiraiya rolled his eyes like a sloth. At the same time, in the store manager's house, Naruto was working on some small parts throughout the night. It had a pair of long wooden legs, a pair of slender arms, and a single leg and an arm. These were just the shell. Naruto was installing parts inside, which was the tissue that transported chakra to drive the shell. The door was knocked lightly, and Xia came in with dessert and hot milk in her hand. Naruto carefully took apart with tweezers and installed it inside. Obviously, it was a critical moment now. He said softly, Is it Xia? Go to sleep, don't worry about me. Xia gently put the dessert and hot milk on the table and whispered back, Master should also go to bed early. Naruto finally put the small part in the buckle, breathed a sigh of relief, and looked up with a smile. Well, the assembly will be finished soon. Then he saw Xia looking at him expectantly. Naruto asked curiously, What's wrong? What's the matter? Xia bit her lip, blinked her eyes, and looked at Naruto's head. Although Xia knows it's rude, but Xia really wants to touch Master's head. Naruto's face darkened and said indifferently, That's impossible, you should go out and rest early. Xia bit her lip and said, Just for a while. Otherwise, Xia can't sleep. Naruto felt his liver hurt. Although he knew that he didn't have much authority as the nominal master, but what kind of request was touching the head? Just as he was about to refuse, the fragrance of the hot milk rushed into his nose. Naruto looked over. Under the light, the hot air floated up slowly, looking very comfortable. Naruto looked at Xia with narrowed eyes. Can't I change the request? For example, give you some small things like this? Naruto raised a wooden arm in his hand. Xia pouted and shook her head pitifully. Naruto sighed, lowered his head and closed his eyes. Just for a while, and you're not allowed to tell your sister. Xia's eyes lit up, and she flew over to hug Naruto's head and rubbed it. Naruto roared, Just for a while. Xia replied, Xia's hand didn't leave, just for a while. Then there was crazy rubbing. For some reason, Naruto's heart. Rubbing, rubbing, rubbing on the smooth head, rubbing. What F** king accompaniment, F** king accompaniment. Naruto didn't know how many times they rubbed against each other. After Xiaji left, Naruto felt that his head was warm. It seemed quite comfortable. No, this thought is too dangerous. Looks like I have to hurry up and let my hair grow out. Naruto began to install the mechanical parts seriously, but his mind was thinking of Rolling Thunder. And the panda family living under the banyan tree in the forest of death. I really want to rub the bear. It was so fun to be furry and plump. And Mother Bear's big belly. Lying on it, No matter how good the bed is, it can't compare. When Naruto was immersed in his imagination, a pink mushroom on the windowsill moved, and then with a small flower pot under it, it hugged. It moved behind the curtain, and then seemed to stretch and didn't move, as if it had fallen asleep. The mushroom made a sound, and Naruto looked up. Seeing that it was the mushroom, he ignored it and continued to install the parts. The mushroom was sleepy, so he should finish quickly and sleep. Chapter 176. The next morning, Naruto arrived at the hospital yawning. Yesterday, he didn't get to sleep again. Because there was a problem with a part, he went to the suburbs to forge another one in the middle of the night. Morning, Naruto. Hanatsuki was a little surprised to see Naruto come so early today. Normally, Naruto wouldn't be seen until 8 o'clock. Morning. Naruto threw a scroll over and complained, I haven't slept yet. These are the prosthetic limbs of the 3 girls. Go put them on for them. I'm going to the office to catch up on some sleep. Naruto yawned and walked to his office. Hanatsuki held the scroll and smiled sweetly at Naruto's back. She quietly followed him. After Naruto closed the door, she helped him flip over the sign hanging on the door. The sign said, Do not disturb. Then she left the hospital with the scroll. When Naruto woke up, it was already afternoon. In fact, he felt that he could still sleep until night time, but Tsunade came looking for him. What's the matter, Tsunade-ne-san? Tsunade glared at him and said unhappily, You seem to have forgotten that I'm still your master. When are you going to start accepting my training? When Naruto heard that it was about training, he immediately became spirited and laughed. How could I forget? Didn't I see that Tsunade-ne-san was too busy a while ago? Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Don't give me that. Do you have time tomorrow? Naruto was about to answer when he suddenly remembered that there were still 32 people whose prosthetic limbs hadn't been completed. Yesterday, 3 had already made him busy for most of the day. 32 people would take at least a week. Naruto looked up and was about to say something when he saw Tsunade looking at him with disdain. That look was nothing more than asking if she was busy or if he was busy. Waiting for me? Funny. Naruto smiled awkwardly and scratched his head. Tsunade said, Your business is also serious, so I won't say much. But you have to arrange your own time. From tomorrow onwards, you have to report to me from 1 to 8 p.m. every day. I'll teach you some basic knowledge about sealing techniques. When you're able to learn by yourself, I'll transfer you to a sealing class for a while. Sealing jutsu and medical ninjutsu are inextricably linked. Learning it will be very helpful for you. Learn sealing techniques? This was to prepare for learning the Yin seal. After learning the Yin seal, he would be able to learn the Baihao technique. Then, he would be able to grow his hair. Naruto naturally liked this kind of learning plan. He immediately replied, Okay. It's all up to Sister Tsunade. Tsunade nodded with satisfaction, then suddenly thought of something. By the way, Jiraiya said that you learned a very dangerous body flicker jutsu. Show me. Naruto curled his lips and muttered in his heart, Jiraiya really has a big mouth. Tsunade won't let him continue to use this trick. In that case, he would have to use it secretly in the future. Wind chakra filled her entire body, compressing and exploding. Storm damage. Naruto disappeared in place, and when he reappeared, he was already in another part of the office. Then, he returned to his original position. His speed was so fast that the turbulent airflow caused the documents on the table to fly all over the room. Tsunade praised, That's a good body flicker jutsu. Before she could finish, she saw a bloody mark on Naruto's hand. Naruto quietly put his hand behind his back, and then the corner of his mouth cracked open again. There was no way to hide this. He couldn't just put his head in his pants. Tsunade's body trembled when she saw the blood. She endured the discomfort and continued, It is indeed dangerous. Use it again. This time, don't move. I'll feel the changes in your body. Tsunade held Naruto's hand. Naruto was a little worried. Sister Tsunade, your hemophobia. Tsunade shook her head. It's okay. Don't worry about me. Naruto wanted to say something but hesitated. Did Shizune tell you about the treatment for hemophobia I mentioned? Tsunade nodded. Naruto smiled. Then this time it will be a treatment. Sister Tsunade, you have to be strong. Then he reminded, also, use chakra to protect your hand. In a while, my body will be full of chakra with the wind attribute. It will be very dangerous. Tsunade gathered chakra in her hands as she was told. Naruto no longer hesitated, and the wind attribute chakra covered his body. At this time, chakra was still relatively calm. Compression. The wind attribute chakra on Naruto's body was compressed into a wind blade. The wind blade cut on Tsunade's chakra, making a harsh scream. This reminded Naruto of the last time he fought with Sasuke. It was just that the scream at that time was many times stronger than this. Then came the explosion. How can I explode if I don't move? Naruto thought about it and found a solution. Then the compressed wind blade continued to be compressed, and the scream became louder. After the wind blade was compressed to the extreme, it suddenly burst. The wind blade exploded and turned into smaller wind blades. Tsunade increased the pressure of chakra in her hand at the right time. Sister Tsunade, that's it. Do you feel anything? Tsunade took a breath, then nodded seriously, and replied, I feel that you are a monster. Who taught you how to make the wind blade explode to accelerate? Jiraiya also asked this question. Obviously, he couldn't answer Shikaku, so Naruto took the title of the creator of the body flicker jutsu to himself and shamelessly said, I thought of it myself. Tsunade's face changed from admiration to surprise, and she commented, Madman. Naruto was a little worried. Sister Tsunade, you won't be like that fool Jiraiya to stop me from using this ninjutsu, right? Tsunade rolled her eyes, meaning that if she didn't let Naruto use this ninjutsu, she would be a fool. But to be honest, Tsunade really didn't want to let Naruto use it. But thinking that Jiraiya didn't succeed in persuading her, she felt that she was asking for trouble. Thinking about it, she said, then it seems that I have to change your training course. Let's put aside learning about talisman arrays for now. I think I should teach you another use of Yang Chakra, monstrous strength. I heard from Hana Fujama that you wanted to learn this ninjutsu. Monstrous strength? Thinking back, Naruto embarked on the path of medical ninja because of this ninjutsu. Because the store manager told him that this ninjutsu could strengthen the body and increase the strength, which was very tempting for Naruto who wanted to increase the strength of the 8 gates. But later, his hair was gone. Compared to the 8 gates, he was now more obsessed with his hair. Naruto nodded and replied, I do want to, but what's the connection between this ninjutsu and my body flicker technique? Tsunade explained, the principle of monstrous strength is that the yang chakra resonates with the body and explodes the power. It has the same effect as your body flicker technique. If you learn it, it should be very helpful for you to control this ninjutsu. It can also reduce the possibility of you getting injured. Can it be like this? Well, the mission of saving his hair can be delayed for a while. Compared to learning healing to treat wounds, it is obviously more reliable to fundamentally control the damage. Tsunade continued, if you learn monstrous strength, it will consume a lot of physical energy. Your diet also needs to be changed. What do you eat every day now? Naruto thought about it and took out a list from the storage space in his right hand. In fact, he didn't know what to eat every day. What he ate was arranged by Haru and Haru. Tsunade was surprised to see Naruto reading the list. She asked, is there a recipe? Let me see. Then she looked at it for 5 minutes. Tsunade's face darkened. She handed the recipe back. No need to change it. No need to change it? Isn't it too good? According to this list, one person would need hundreds of thousands of Ryo a week. Are those 2 girls so rich? If they were so rich, how could they be the little girl sitting in the ruins crying? Tsunade suddenly had the urge to report him. Naruto, have you always been eating according to this menu? Naruto thought about it and took out 5 more lists from the storage space. This is the previous one. Tsunade looked at it with a dark face. It was really nutritious. Compared to this, Tsunade felt that she ate pig food every day, but to be honest, Tun did eat with her every day. Naruto was worried. Is there a problem with my diet? If there is a problem, I will go back and change it according to your instructions. Tsunade said with a dark face, then go buy a package of pig feed and drink it. Naruto blinked. Ah. Tsunade rolled her eyes and left. Naruto was confused. Why did he buy a package of pig feed? Is pig feed very nutritious? Should he tell Xia about it? Nine Tails sneered. Did your IQ drop again? She's obviously mocking you. Naruto didn't understand and replied, Why are you mocking me? Nine Tails snorted, You should buy a package of pig feed to nourish your brain. Chapter 177. Naruto wouldn't buy pig feed to nourish the brain. In fact, did he really not understand the meaning of Tsunade's words? From the way Naruto put away the cookbook and smiled, it was obvious that this guy did it on purpose. Nine Tails felt the difference in Naruto's mood and asked, Did you do it on purpose? Naruto replied, Summer told me that someone has been investigating them recently, and the person investigating them is Jiraiya. Nine Tails pondered for a moment, and with his IQ, he couldn't figure out the connection between these two things. But he wouldn't say that he didn't understand. That would be ridiculed by Naruto. After all, he just mocked Naruto for eating pig feed. So he pretended to understand and nodded. What was the result of the test? In fact, this sentence already exposed that he didn't understand at all. Naruto smiled and replied, It was Tsunade who asked Jiraiya to investigate, or Jiraiya told Tsunade after investigating. Nine Tails still didn't understand. Naruto didn't intend to continue and replied, I just suddenly had an idea and wanted to test it. But I thought of it before I tested it. It's not interesting. Anyway, let's go home and eat pastries. As long as Tsunade was willing to teach him, as long as Haru and Summer were not in danger, then everything was not important. If Summer and Spring were in danger, then he would have to think about it again. When he returned to the store manager's house, he was surprised. It wasn't Summer or Spring who opened the door. It was a little lowly. Big brother is back. Welcome home, big brother. The little lowly was very cute, but what Naruto didn't understand was, why did he see this little lowly here? This little lowly was obviously not wild. Then someone else poked her head out. It was the girl with a pair of long legs but no arms he saw yesterday. He remembered her name was Big Gunny. Naruto didn't want to complain about the names of these three people. After coming out of the garden that day, Naruto looked through the name list. Naruto guessed that it was the girl in the wheelchair, and the one below was Little Gunny. Naruto guessed that it was the girl in the wheelchair. Naruto asked the dean. The dean said that the name was given by them and no one knew what their real names were. Why are you here? The little girl hopped over to Naruto's side and swung Naruto's hand. With an aggrieved look on her face, she asked, Big brother, don't you welcome us? If there were only these two people, they would naturally be welcomed. After all, the store manager's house was very big, and a few more wouldn't be a problem. But, since the two of them were here, it meant that the guy in the wheelchair was here as well. Sure enough, before Naruto could answer, the man came out on his own. He was still in the wheelchair and he shouted, See, I told you we shouldn't have come. They don't welcome us at all, so we should go back. Naruto's eyelids twitched, and he didn't try to hide it. If they don't welcome us, then it's just you. I still welcome Little Gunny and Big Gunny. The man in the wheelchair was provoked, and he shouted, How can you be like this? You've seen my arms and legs. How can you not admit it? Naruto wanted to ask if the man had legs, but he didn't want to hit someone in the face, and he didn't want to expose someone's shortcomings. He changed the topic and said, Why are you still in the wheelchair? Are you here because your surgery failed? Unexpectedly, the man in the wheelchair stood up arrogantly and spun around in a circle. At the same time, he didn't stop talking. Sorry to disappoint a black-hearted man like you. My surgery was very successful. Then he sat in the wheelchair again and shouted, "But why do I have to stand when I can sit? I feel good sitting in a wheelchair." Naruto's mouth twitched. Big Gunny explained, "Why you told us that you live here?" And then Naruto waited for the rest of the story, but there was nothing. After returning this time, Naruto didn't hide the fact that he lived in the store manager's house. Therefore, Naruto wasn't surprised that Hua Yu knew where he lived. What he was curious about was why the three girls came. Since they didn't say anything, Naruto had to ask himself, "And then? Why are you looking for me?" The little loli continued to swing Naruto's arm and said, "Teacher Hua Yu said that you would introduce jobs to us, so I came. Big brother, do you not welcome us? If you don't welcome us..." Naruto smiled and rubbed the little girl's head. "Of course you're welcome, but the job will have to wait for a month or two. But you can stay here first. I'll get Xia to arrange rooms for you." Xia heard her name and appeared. "If it's already arranged, tell me, master." "Arranged? Master? If you still know that I'm the master, can you ask me in advance?" Naruto complained in his heart, but he knew he was a fake master. Sigh. Heartbreaking. Since Xia had already arranged everything, there was nothing for him to do. At the dining table, as usual, Xia and Chun were still standing beside Naruto. Now, they seemed to have the aura of a master. However, Naruto knew it was just that Chun and Xia had finished eating. "Isn't Sister Xia eating?" the little loli asked. Naruto replied, "Your sister Xia is a robot that I made. She doesn't eat." Then, the little loli took it seriously. She stopped eating and ran to Xia's body, jumping up and down and touching it. Xia stared at Naruto with resentment. Naruto held back his laughter. The little loli shouted, "Where's the switch? Robots need to have switches, right?" Until Dagoni couldn't stand his silly sister and took it off. "Are you an idiot? Your big brother Naruto was just teasing you." After hearing the truth, the little loli pouted. She was very resentful towards Xia for not being a robot. Her eyes still wandered as if she wanted to find something like an antenna. After dinner, Naruto continued to assemble the other people's artificial limbs. Because there were many of them, he assembled them in the living room without anyone's back. Chun and Xia tried to assemble Gu Teng's artificial limbs, but they lost interest. One was making coffee, and the other was making pastries. There were suddenly 3 more people in the house, and the demand had increased a lot. On the other hand, the new little loli and the other 2 people were very interested. Naruto's eyes lit up. He was never one to do meaningless things. Hence, he guided them. "Little Gu, do you want to try it too?" The little girl's eyes lit up when she heard that. She said in disbelief, "Can I?" Naruto smiled kindly. "Of course." Then, he taught the little girl how to assemble it. The other 2 people were itching to try. Naruto said calmly, "Do you want to try it too? This is a test of your hands-on ability." Thus, he successfully pulled the 3 of them into the water. After the 3 of them successfully assembled a prosthetic limb, Naruto taught them how to test it. Seeing the 3 of them busy, Naruto was very satisfied. It seemed that in less than a week, everyone's prosthetic limbs would be ready. Free labor, that's great. It's not free. Dinner costs a lot. But he didn't need to pay for it, so it's still free labor, that's great. Tomorrow he will start to learn monster strength. He estimated that after learning the 3rd gate of Hashiman Tonku, he will be able to open it. Then, he will learn Een Seal. After learning Een Seal, he will learn creation and regeneration. After learning creation and regeneration, his hair will grow back. Just as Naruto was drawing his blueprint for the future, a person came to the wood leaf cemetery. The person hesitantly came in front of a tombstone. After a while, he left again. To be honest, if this scene was seen by others, it would be scary enough. Fortunately, only one crow saw the whole process. Woodleaf Umbu. A Yamanaka clan member closed his eyes and maintained the Yamanaka clan's heart rotation jutsu. After a long time, he released the jutsu and reported to the people around him. "Naruto, Sama just went to the cemetery. The person's right, I was wrapped in gauze. He muttered to himself. She sent Jiraiya away. It seems that she can't help but want to make a move. It seems that the information given by that guy is indeed reliable. But what's the point of resurrecting the dead? What a silly girl. But it's convenient for me. Chapter 178. The next day, the sun was shining brightly. Naruto delivered the 4 sealed artificial limbs to Hana Fujita early in the morning. He also specifically told her that the job would only be available after 2 months. What he meant was that she shouldn't tell anyone where he lived. Hana Fujita asked with uncertainty, "Did Gunny and the others cause you trouble?" "They didn't cause any trouble, and they even helped a lot. Otherwise, Naruto wouldn't have been able to assemble 4 artificial limbs so easily." Naruto shook his head. "No, it's just that if there are more people, we won't be able to make enough food at home." There was one more thing he didn't say. That was the store manager's house. Although he was the store manager's apprentice, he wasn't the store manager's son-in-law. Hana Fujita sighed in relief and explained, "They asked to find you. I thought they caused you trouble." Then she thought about it and suggested, "If food is a problem, how about I transfer their subsidies to your name?" Subsidies? When it came to subsidies, Naruto felt a headache. Back then, he was also someone who received subsidies to live. Although for a long time, to be precise, he wasn't the one who received subsidies. But after the memories were merged, the feeling of sadness was not much different from experiencing it himself. Naruto waved his hand. "Then there's no need. Leave the money in the sanatorium and share it with the others. It can at least improve the quality of life and food." Hana Fujita was moved. She looked at Naruto seriously and praised, "Naruto, you're really a good person. You should feel honored to be praised," but for some reason, this praise was thorny and a little heart-wrenching. After leaving the hospital, Naruto went straight to Naruto's building. He wanted to come early and cultivate early, but he didn't expect Tsunade to be overwhelmed by a table full of documents. Where did all these documents come from? Tsunade didn't even raise her head. After the 3rd Naruto left, Naruto's position was vacant for more than a month, so the work was piled up. Naruto picked one up and read, "Sue the owner of the sushi restaurant for having cockroaches in the restaurant." Even Naruto wants to get involved in this? That's true. After all, Naruto is the village chief. Then, she took another roll and opened it, reading, "Sue. The quality of the XX set sold by the XX store was not up to standard, causing an accidental pregnancy?" Naruto huffed. Mutine helped to organize the documents and rolled her eyes at Naruto. "If you're free, come and help me deliver a document." Naruto leaned over. It was rare for Sister Shizuan to take the initiative to ask him for help. He had to seize the opportunity to show off. "Who are you giving it to?" "I promised to complete the mission." Mute picked up a scroll. Naruto recognized that it was an encrypted scroll. It was the kind that couldn't be opened without a special technique. Danzo. Naruto was petrified. PFFF. Did Mutine do it on purpose? In the entire wood leaf, the person that Naruto didn't want to meet the most was Danzo. Of course, using pigeons to investigate didn't count. In any case, he definitely didn't want to meet him. But since he had already agreed, multiple shadow clone technique. Bang! A clone appeared beside Naruto. There was a saying that went, "Dying friends is better than dying oneself." So, it was better to send a clone. Mutine took back the scroll and scolded, "This is a very important document. You actually sent a clone?" Naruto replied wittily, "The dock unit isn't far from Naruto's building. Or are you saying that wood leaf isn't safe?" Mutine said disdainfully, "I'm afraid that your clone won't be able to send chakra halfway and will self-destruct." Naruto gritted his teeth and promised, "Don't worry. My clone once held on for 3 days." A clone could hold on for 3 days? This was bullshit. Mute-in expressed that she didn't believe it and still insisted that Naruto use his main body. Tsunade didn't raise her eyes and said, "Go, that guy can't eat you." So, Naruto took the scroll and went to the dock unit. Naruto had always been avoiding Danzo. To what extent? Even if it was the noodles that he had just ordered, as long as he saw Danzo, Naruto would rather not eat it and just turn his head and leave. Naruto said that it wasn't because he was afraid, but because the toad's feet didn't bite. So what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Walking into the dock unit, with the seal of Naruto on the scroll, Naruto was unimpeded all the way. Nine Tails complained, "Naruto, I feel that your heart is beating a little faster." Naruto replied, "It's too hot and stuffy." Nine Tails grinned. But it didn't last long. The moment he saw that person, Nine Tails exploded. "Danzo-sama, this is the secret letter that Naruto-sama asked me to give to you." Naruto handed over the secret letter with both hands. Naruto and Danzo didn't have a superior and subordinate relationship, so Naruto stood very steadily and only bowed slightly. Danzo didn't let anyone pick it up, but walked over himself, but his eyes didn't look at the scroll, but stared at Naruto's face. He didn't pick it up when he walked in, which made Naruto feel very embarrassed. It felt strange to be stared at by an old thing like this. "Danzo-sama, your secret letter." Danzo didn't take it. Naruto took the initiative to hand it over. "If you don't pick it up, you'll be too much. Believe it or not, I'll just let it go." "Forget it, if I let it go, I might have to pick it up myself, which is even more embarrassing." This time, Danzo took the scroll. He opened his mouth and said, "I saw your battle in Chunin's exam, it was very good, the layout was well thought out, you're a rare talent. I want to invite you to the dock department." Invite him to the dock department? Naruto said uncertainly, "I'll join the dock department." It's not suitable, right? Doesn't the dock department need people who are strong and decisive? I didn't even pass the exam in Chunin, I'm too weak. Danzo looked at Naruto meaningfully and said, "You're not weak at all, and you must be a decisive person, don't rush to deny it. It hasn't been that long since the Wave Nation mission. I've also flipped through the dossiers of that mission. Your performance in it was particularly outstanding. First, you killed 2 Chunin with 2 shadow clones, and then killed a person called Bai." Naruto smiled and said, "That's all luck, the clones killing people also shocked me." A smile appeared on Danzo's face. "I also checked the identity of that Bai. If that person's strength participated in the last Chunin's exam, he should be second only to the person in Sannin, but he died in your hands. This old guy really pays attention to me, he even wants to check a person who is already dead. If it was another person who praised him, Naruto would be very happy. But to be praised by Danzo, it was really funny. Let's think about how to deal with this old guy. I always feel that there is such an old guy always thinking about me, it's creepy." Seeing that Naruto didn't answer, Danzo smiled and said, "This invitation is indeed a bit too sudden, you can go back and think about it, don't rush to answer, you can come to me at any time when you think about it. Believe me, I have never been wrong about people, you are a person who is born to live in the darkness." After leaving the dark operation, Naruto asked Nine Tails, "Nine Llamas, Sensei, do you think Danzo was mocking me or praising me?" Nine Tails didn't answer. Naruto's consciousness sank into the sealed space of Nine Tails. Then he saw Nine Tails who was 3 times fatter. He couldn't help but ridicule, "Are you posing?" Nine Tails gritted his teeth and said, "He has an aura that I am familiar with, but that person should have died several years ago." "How many years is dead several years? Is it Shui or Shodai?" But to be able to make Nine Tails so excited, it should be Shodai. Naruto comforted him, "Don't get too excited, don't spread chakra, calm down, you are still a handsome fox." Chapter 179. Do you want to go to the Unbound to play? Naruto was afraid that he would lose his life if he continued to play. So, Naruto warned himself to stop this time. Don't court death. If Danzo gave him a kami and asked him to call him dad, it wouldn't be fun. Well, calling him grandma wouldn't work either. After returning to Naruto's office, Naruto didn't mention Danzo's recruitment. He helped Tsunade deal with the documents in the morning and began to practice in the afternoon. Tsunade's small class started for the first time. Tsunade finally had the demeanor of one of the Sannin. Her body was straight, and her expression was solemn. Her words were no longer as frivolous as before. She was completely in the state of a teacher. Today, I'll briefly explain the principle of monster force. Spread ordinary chakra all over your body to increase your strength and speed. This is the most frequently used skill of chakra. Tsunade raised her leg and kicked a thick tree trunk. It was an upper whip kick, which was Xiao Li's wood leaf whirlwind. His leg hit the tree trunk. The tree trunk trembled from the kick, and more than half of the tree's leaves fell off. Then, with a creak, a crack appeared on the tree trunk. Finally, it swayed and fell down reluctantly. This move was already very strong for ordinary people, but for Tsunade, it was weak. Tsunade continued to explain, "Don't doubt it. The blow just now was indeed my full blow, but I didn't use chakra. Next, I'll show you how to use ordinary chakra." She turned around and kicked a trunk as thick as a small basin. It was the upper whip kick wood leaf whirlwind. The momentum was strong, and the wind was on her feet. Whether it was speed or strength, it increased more than 5 times. The next moment, the tree didn't have time to shake off its leaves, and it was directly kicked to pieces in the middle of the roar. Tsunade explained, "This is the effect of using ordinary chakra. The power of the explosion is 10 times stronger than the ordinary body. Of course, not everyone can increase the strength of a normal chakra by 10 times. Ordinary people can only increase their strength by 2 to 5 times. Above 5 times, one needs to train hard and have unparalleled talent." When Naruto heard this, he clapped his hands and praised, "Then Sister Tsunade's talent is definitely top-notch." This praise made Tsunade very happy. She nodded and explained in detail, "More than 5 times, relying on talent and perseverance can only increase the strength to about 7 or 8 times. I can increase it to 10 times. The most important point is that I am a medical ninja. I know the body better than ordinary people." After saying that, his expression turned solemn. "Next, I will demonstrate the power that will erupt when the yang attribute chakra resonates with the body." As he said that, he lifted his leg. This time, he didn't attack the tree, but he kicked the ground. Then it was a big scene, a real big scene. Naruto kicked over a house in Bunker Street last time. It was nothing compared to this. As soon as Tsunade's hands and feet landed on the ground, there was a rumbling sound, as if thunder clouds were rolling in the sky. The earth trembled violently, like an earthquake. Like a broken mirror, the ground cracked around Tsunade's feet. The place where Tsunade stood collapsed more than 3 or 4 meters. The area covered was 10 meters in diameter. Naruto blinked and swore in his heart that he would never provoke Sister Tsunade. In the future, Sister Tsunade will be his sister, his mother, and his ancestor. He will definitely not fight back, and he will not talk back when scolded. Can this be caused by a human? Little Lee could only open 5 gates at this level, right? What is one of the Sannin? At this moment, Naruto finally knew how shallow his knowledge was in the past. Tsunade patted the non-existent dust on her body and said, "This is the power of the yang attribute chakra after resonance with the body." When Naruto was about to applaud, Tsunade added, "To be precise, the power of the yang attribute chakra will be multiplied by 1 layer. On this basis, every layer of chakra will be multiplied by 10 times. In my normal state, I can stack up to 5 layers. When I unlock the Ein seal and enter the Baihao technique state, I can stack up to 10 layers. This is a strange power." Gulp. Naruto swallowed his saliva and swallowed all the flattering words and worship slogans. "Tsunade is my mother. I will serve her like a mother. From now on, if anyone provokes my mother, I will be angry with them. Of course, the most important thing is that I must not die in front of her. What fart candy, diarrhea candy, I will destroy it when I go back." Thinking about the last fart candy incident, it was also thrilling. If Tsunade was in a bad mood at that time, she could have done it to him. He was afraid that with his small body, he would have been broken into 2 pieces. At that time, not to mention the 9 tails, even the Jubi. Well, the Jubi could almost save his life. But the Jubi is the Rikudo's mother, not his mother. Why would she save him? At the same time, he also had to thank himself for being wise enough to worship Tsunade as his teacher. Otherwise, Tsunade would have slapped his neck even if she was in a good mood. With Tsunade's big neck, I'm afraid she'll have to cut off her head to fart. Mom. No, cough cough. Sister Tsunade, you are really amazing. From now on, you are the road sign of my life. If you tell me to go east, I will never go west. If you tell me to steal a dog, I will never touch a chicken. Tsunade couldn't help but laugh. Pfft. She found that her apprentice was really too funny. So she came to Naruto's side, raised her hand and rubbed Naruto's smooth bald head, and laughed. How about you keep this little monk hairstyle in the future? The wind attribute chakra is gentle like a spring breeze, but once it explodes, it will be destroyed. So, unless it's a last resort, you should use that ninjutsu as little as possible in actual combat, at least until you can really master it, because no one can predict what kind of accident will happen in a battle. To put it simply, if the air in the space you're fighting in is filled with poisonous gas purposely released by the enemy, then that seemingly insignificant small wound will be the most fatal blow that will take your life. Hearing this, Naruto's scalp tingled. Recently, he had been researching how to poison the air without making a sound. Tsunade-san is right, I will never use it in battle unless it's a last resort. Naruto was very cautious when it came to his life. Tsunade nodded with satisfaction. She had thought about it all night long before coming up with this idea. Now it seems that she succeeded. Very good. She patted Naruto's head and said, when you practice the monster force to my level, the speed of the explosion of pure strength will not be much slower than your body flicker technique. Of course, if you can fully master that technique and make up for the flaw of hurting yourself, that technique will be very terrifying to the extreme. Naruto nodded again and again. Tsunade solved one of her worries, and she could finally teach Naruto with peace of mind. Otherwise, she was always worried that Naruto would play with her to death. Tsunade took out a scroll and handed it to Naruto. This is some of the notes I made. It records some of the reactions of the human body after being stimulated by chakra. Read this and remember it in your mind. Then use the records on it to burst out 10 times the strength of ordinary chakra, and I will teach you the monster force. 10 times the strength. Isn't 7 or 8 times the limit of ordinary people? Naruto blinked and looked up in disbelief. 10 times? Tsunade patted Naruto's head and said, yes, 10 times. You don't lack talent, right? How can a narcissistic person like Naruto think that he lacks talent? He shook his head immediately. Then Tsunade continued to ask, you don't lack diligence, right? Well, I was lazy for a while, but recently I have been very diligent. So Naruto shook his head again. Tsunade finally said, you are also a medical ninja, right? And you are a very good medical ninja. Naruto gritted his teeth and said proudly, of course. Tsunade rubbed Naruto's head and said, then you can definitely achieve 10 times. Naruto nodded cheerfully and replied with certainty, I can definitely achieve it. Tsunade and Shizen left, leaving Naruto alone in the forest to practice. Shizen came to Tsunade's side and whispered, Tsunade-sama, are you kidding? The limit of ordinary people. At most, 7 times is the limit. The only one who exceeds this limit is Reikage, but you said that Reikage only has 8 times. After saying that, Shizen's eyes lit up. You don't want to teach him? Right. He is so good at acting, and now he is already very troublesome, so you came up with this idea? Tsunade raised her hand and slapped Shizen's neck, and scolded, what are you thinking in your head? Since I accepted Naruto as my disciple, I will naturally teach him seriously. How can I do something that will lead him astray? Shizen was in pain. Since she was 13 years old, this was the first time Tsunade slapped her. She immediately restrained herself and showed an obedient expression, and asked weakly, But he can't reach 10 times at all. Didn't you say that you are the granddaughter of first Hokage? Tsunade rolled her eyes. Do you think I will tell you that Naruto's mother is Uzumaki Kushina? When has the body of the Uzumaki clan been weak? Shizen suddenly realized. It turned out to be the Uzumaki clan. No wonder he is the human pillar force of the Nine Tails at such a young age. Then her face changed, and her eyes widened, and she couldn't believe it. What? Uzumaki Kushina. Is it the Uzumaki Kushina? Tsunade raised her hand and slapped Shizen again, but Shizen's voice was too loud. Shizen covered her mouth, and then whispered, Doesn't that mean that Naruto's father is… She didn't say this sentence, and her fingers made a four-finger gesture. It means Yondaime Naruto. Tsunade nodded and sighed. I was shocked when I found out. Jiraiya didn't tell me until a few days ago. That damn guy, when did he learn to be so cunning? I was wondering why he desperately wanted to accept Naruto as his apprentice. But thinking about it carefully, only that person's child can make him so attentive. After all, that person gave him a lot of face, but it's a pity. He left in a hurry. Tsunade walked a few steps in silence and sighed. I always think that Naruto is a cursed position, no matter who sits on it, or who thinks of it as an ideal, in the end, will not have a good end. Shizen was shocked after hearing it, and she panicked. Tsunade-sama, how can you curse yourself? You are Naruto now. Tsunade looked gloomy, smiled at herself, and said, I will not have a good end. When Shizen heard this sentence, her heart couldn't help but tremble. She shouted, Tsunade-sama, don't be like this. You like this. You like this. Shizen was very worried about Tsunade, and Tsunade's words made her feel that something bad was going to happen. That feeling was very strong when she saw Tsunade's expression just now. Uncle won't be happy if you do this. Chapter 180. In a week, Naruto increased Chakra's power from 5 times to 7 times. However, he finally reached a bottleneck. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't increase it by even a little bit. Unless he opened the Hashimon Tonku. But after opening the Hashimon Tonku, the first gate could only increase his power by 8 times. The second gate could barely increase his power by 9 times, but he still couldn't reach 10 times. Naruto went to find Tsunade. Tsunade's reply to him was that he wasn't working hard enough. So, Naruto worked even harder. As a result of their hard work, the cliffs on the west bank of Konoha began to become thinner and thinner. Every day, the gravel crackled and fell, big and small, single and large. Crash, crash, crash. They practiced for another week. 2 days before this week, Naruto went home to eat. Later on, he asked the idle people at home to send food to the cliff. Little Gunny loved this task the most. The other two treated it as a daily walk and came along as well. Today, on the last day of the week, the 3 of them brought the delicious food prepared by Summer to the cliff. Naruto stopped and looked at Gunny, who was acting strangely. He didn't know what this girl was thinking. She could walk, but she insisted on sitting in a wheelchair. If she was sitting in a wheelchair, then so be it. If she was sitting in a wheelchair on flat ground, then so be it. The wheelchair definitely couldn't be used on mountain roads, so this girl would carry the wheelchair when the road wasn't good. She would put it down when the road wasn't good. What a pain in the ass. Anyway, Naruto was tired just looking at her. Big brother, I've brought the food. Little Gunny ran over happily with a box of food in his hand. Naruto rubbed the little girl's head. Today, she was wearing a braid. He didn't know whose idea it was, but it looked fun. Naruto had the urge to grab the braid and see if he could lift it up. This idea was too violent. Naruto decided to reflect on it. After the food was delivered, it was free time for them to do whatever they wanted. Little Gunny knew how to catch butterflies and climb trees, so Big Gunny looked after him. As for Gunny, she sat in the wheelchair leisurely and watched Big Gunny and Little Gunny. She looked like a kind grandfather who couldn't walk and watched his naughty grandson run. Tesuke, that's hilarious. After finishing his meal, Naruto placed the lunchbox beside Gurney's wheelchair and continued running towards the cliff. Gurney said, "The cliff is about to collapse." Naruto turned to look at the cliff. At this moment, the top of the cliff was still the same as before. The bottom part was dented by Naruto's daily hammer, and as a whole, it looked like the tusks of an elephant. Naruto nodded. Although Gurney was unreliable, he still had some business to attend to. He replied, "It does look like it's about to collapse. Thanks." Waving his hand, he leaped up to the top of the cliff and began hammering at the spot in the sky. He was going to hammer down the part of the cliff that was in the sky so that he wouldn't be buried under the rubble when he hammered at the bottom. The method of hammering was to wrap chakra in his fist or leg and bombard it. The 3 girls who were hammered down the cliff went home and hammered until the sky was full of stars and the moon was crying. The cliff didn't collapse, but a big hole was hammered out from the top. "Let's call it a day." Naruto patted his butt and planned to go home. After 2 weeks of continuous training, Naruto benefited a lot from chakra's increase in strength and speed. He didn't need to open the Hashiman Tonku. Just by infusing chakra into his body, the speed of chakra's eruption was several times faster than before. Rising and falling, he was like a bolt of lightning in the darkness, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After Naruto left, 2 heads popped out from a big tree far away from the cliff. They were Tsunade and Shizun. Shizun watched Naruto leave and then glanced at the sunken cliff. She was speechless. "I didn't expect Naruto to be so crazy when it comes to training. In just 1 week, he can increase chakra's eruption of strength from 5 times to 7 times. That's crazy." Tsunade retracted her gaze and said proudly, "Who taught him that?" Shizun looked at Tsunade. There was something on the tip of her tongue that she didn't say. "What else did you teach him besides giving him notes? He's completely wild and free-range." Then she thought of another question and said uncertainly, "Naruto needs a medicinal bath to train like this, right? Otherwise, after a long time, his body will inevitably be exhausted. At that time, he'll be crippled. After all, chakra extracts vitality from the cells. Overuse will speed up the body's aging." Tsunade shook her head and said firmly, "No, this guy eats well." "Eats well?" "No matter how well he eats, he can't withstand such consumption. That's just an excuse." "You don't want to spend money, right?" Shizun expressed her doubts. "How well?" Tsunade frowned. Thinking of Naruto's diet, she was in a bad mood. She snorted. "It's so good that what we eat is pig food compared to him." "Pig food?" Dolphin in Shizun's arms was unhappy. "Did the pig provoke you?" He wrinkled his nose and buried his head in Shizun's arms with an unhappy expression. However, Tsunade directly ignored him. The 2 came down from the tree and didn't go straight home. Instead, they walked to the cliff where Naruto was training. Tsunade pressed her hand on the ground and grabbed a layer of fine sand that had been smashed. Her eyebrows wrinkled. Shizun also looked over, but she didn't see anything wrong. She couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong?" Tsunade muttered to herself. "This sand should be the effect of chakra's eruption of strength 9 times. Shizun exclaimed. 9 times? Did Naruto increase chakra's eruption to 9 times? That. Shizun didn't say anything for a long time. The extreme shock made her stutter. Tsunade shook her head and said, "No, chakra's eruption is up to 7 times, but it's 9 times the effect. 7 times eruption is 9 times the effect? What does that mean?" Shizun was even more confused. Tsunade shook her head and said, "Maybe I'm wrong. After all, the composition of the rock is not the same. Maybe the density and hardness of this piece of rock are relatively low, so it turned into sand. Let's go back." The 2 returned to the door. Tsunade didn't go home. Instead, she asked Shizun to prepare a bath for her. She returned to Naruto's office, picked up the file and flipped through it. Finally, she found a note. After the graduation exam of the ninja school, Naruto stole the Forbidden Technique scroll and learned the multiple shadow clone jutsu. Tsunade frowned. How can something as important as the Forbidden Technique scroll be stolen so casually? What kind of trick is Sensei doing? However, with Naruto's memory, it's impossible for him to only remember the multiple shadow clone jutsu. After all, he's someone who can memorize the entire plant dictionary. 7 times Chakra's eruption is 9 times the effect. Tsunade took a breath and muttered to herself. It should be Hashimon Tonku, and there's more than one. My adorable disciple, you always bring me surprises. She was a little worried. I just don't know. Will you use that technique? Will you want to resurrect your parents? Thinking of that technique, Tsunade couldn't help but think of the dead Duan and her brother Nuki. These days, she was struggling whether to use that technique. Tsunade put down the file, looked at the moonlight outside the ninja building with her hands behind her back, and sighed. It's enough that I'm the only one guilty. Naruto, don't follow my path. Chapter 181. In the 3rd week, according to the original plan, they continued to hammer the cliff. However, Naruto received a message that Kakashi had returned and joined the Umbu. Therefore, Team 7 was completely disbanded. This is really bad news, as expected. Fortunately, the Umbu that Kakashi joined was not Danzo's route, but the Umbu that obeyed Naruto. Woodleaf's Umbu was the same as when Sandaime was still in Danzo. The Umbu that obeyed Naruto in a broad sense, and the Umbu that Danzo operated privately under the pretext of training the Umbu route. In the Naruto building, Kakashi, Naruto, and Hinata listened to the announcement of the disbandment of Team 7. Hinata looked at Naruto, and Naruto smiled comfortingly. Sasuke was not there, and the team was not complete, so the disbandment was inevitable to some extent. Another point was that Naruto wanted to seize the time to practice and didn't want to take on any boring tasks. Therefore, even if Tsunade didn't disband the team, he would find a way to leave Team 7. For example, he had already planned to join the medical class. Naruto now has his own office in the hospital, and the promotion to Chunin also took the path of medical ninja, so the ending was doomed. As for Hinata's path, Naruto would advise her to go home and practice. Hinata was the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan anyway. If she didn't want to be a ninja, no one would stop her. Outside the ninja building, Kakashi suggested, "Why don't we find a place to eat?" It was rare for Kakashi to take the initiative to treat. Naruto seconded, "Since Kakashi-sensei is treating, we must take advantage of it." The 3 of them found a barbecue shop nearby because the aroma of the barbecue was very fragrant. They could smell it even when they were walking on the street. Also, the barbecue shop was very close to them. Plus, no matter where they went to eat, it was the same in a sense. They just wanted to find a place to talk. At the dining table, Kakashi looked at Naruto and smiled. "Jiraiya-sama came to me before Chunin's exam and said that he would be more suitable to teach you. I didn't expect you to be the disciple of Tsunade-sama." Naruto grinned and said, "Jiraiya-sama's ninjutsu is not suitable for me. Besides, my medical ninjutsu is very strong. It would be a waste not to take Tsunade as my master." Kakashi smiled bitterly. Whether it was Jiraiya or Tsunade, they were both one of Konoha's Sannin. They were both the strongest existences in Konoha. To have the right to choose between the two, perhaps only this guy in front of him was so lucky. He was so lucky that it made people jealous. Kakashi turned to look at Hinata. "Hinata, why are you unhappy? Did Naruto make you unhappy?" Today, Kakashi spoke a lot more than usual. Naruto could feel the reluctance in Kakashi's heart, and he couldn't help but feel a little emotional. But he knew better that the weak had no right to feel emotional. Emotional was something that the strong did when they were bored. As a weak person, what he should do at this time was only to continue to practice and become strong. Naruto looked at Hinata and said directly, "Hinata, Team 7's removal is inevitable, so don't be too sad." Hinata raised her head and looked at Naruto. She wanted to say something but stopped. In her heart, she hoped that Naruto could find a way to save Team 7. After all, Naruto was Naruto's apprentice, but Naruto didn't. She didn't know what to do. On the one hand, she supported Naruto in her heart anyway, but if Team 7 was removed, then she and Naruto would have fewer chances to get along. Kakashi heard Naruto's words and laughed. If you successfully promote to Chunin this time, then Team 7 will be removed. Because ninja's task is based on the needs of the village. Some tasks require teams, some tasks only require individuals, and some tasks require several teams, so don't be sad because of this. At least, we are still in the same village, aren't we? It's not a farewell, so don't be too sad. Hinata nodded obediently, but it could be seen that she was still not happy. After tea, when the three separated, Kakashi called Naruto and then handed a scroll to Naruto. This is my father's handwritten book about swordsmanship. You like to use swords, maybe it will be useful for you. Kakashi's father, would Leaf White Fang? Then this scroll is more than useful. Naruto looked at Kakashi, solemnly bowed, and then took it with both hands. Kakashi smiled and said, "You don't have to be so serious, it's just some casual notes." After handing the scroll to Naruto, Kakashi waved his hand and was about to leave, but he was stopped by Naruto. Kakashi, sensei, I heard that your father's weapon is broken. I think I can help you reconnect it. He turned to look at Naruto and said in disbelief, "You can reconnect it?" Naruto nodded seriously and said affirmatively, "I can reconnect it." Then Kakashi's smiling expression suddenly changed back to the dead fish eyes of the past, and he directly slapped Naruto's neck. "Why didn't you say earlier that you can reconnect it? If I don't give you some benefits, you won't care about it." Naruto smiled awkwardly and replied, "How could I?" But in his heart, he said two words, "Nonsense." Kakashi went home to get the broken white fang, and Naruto began to work on Hinata's thoughts. "You're not happy?" Hinata pursed her lips. Naruto raised his hand and directly pinched Hinata's face, pulling a curved smile. Hinata rolled her eyes at Naruto and slapped away the strange hand pinching her face. "You're so annoying." The two laughed and joked, and Naruto said seriously, "Hinata, after Class 7 is dismissed, you should go home and practice physical arts at home." Hinata looked at Naruto. "What about you?" Naruto replied, "I'm going to practice under Naruto-sama. Don't worry, I won't go out of the village, and I won't encounter any danger. If you miss me, you can go to my place to find me. By the way, you don't know the address yet, I'll write it for you." With that, Naruto began to write. Hinata opened her mouth and closed it in the end. In fact, she knew where Naruto lived. After Naruto came back, she went to Naruto's original place to look for him a few times, but Naruto was not at home. Even when she waited until dark, there was no one. In the end, she asked Hua Yu, and Hua Yu gave her Naruto's new address. She went, but did not enter the door, because she saw a very cute girl walking in with a bag of vegetables. Then, she rolled her eyes and looked outside for a long time, and found that there was another girl inside. Naruto was talking and laughing with the two of them, and he looked happier than when he was with her. "So, here, this is my new place. This is the house of the shop owner who taught me how to forge swords. He's not here for a while, so the wood leaf is convenient for me." Hinata took the piece of paper with the address written on it. It was the place she had been to. Naruto patted his chest and said, "If anyone bullies you, come and find me. Even if it's your cousin, I'll beat him up until he can't tell north from south." Hinata's heart suddenly warmed. Since Naruto asked her to find him, it meant that the two girls might not have that kind of relationship with Naruto. At this time, Kakashi came back with the broken white tooth wrapped in brocade. He said worriedly, "Naruto, take a look. Can it be reattached?" Naruto looked at it. Instead of calling it a sword, it was more like a short knife. From the handle to the tip, it was only 30 centimeters long. It was broken neatly, but that was not important. No matter how broken it was, he could just melt it and recast it. He had participated in the imitation of the beheading knife, so how could he not be able to forge a 30-centimeter knife? Naruto nodded confidently. "No problem. I guarantee that it can be reattached, and it will be exactly the same as before." Kakashi breathed a sigh of relief. He patted Naruto's shoulder and said seriously, "Then I'll leave the white tooth to you. Thank you very much." Naruto nodded and accepted the gratitude. Then he asked, "Do you want to fix it casually? Or do you want to refine it?" Kakashi was stunned and asked subconsciously, "Is there a difference?" Naruto replied, "Casually, it'll be 100,000 taels. If you want to refine it, it'll be 10 million taels." Kakashi's expression froze. Lightning gathered on his body and surged through the hand holding Naruto's shoulder. Under the electric shock, Naruto's body began to dance and he begged for mercy. Kakashi increased the electric shock. "How much?" Naruto shook his head while trembling. He seemed to have epilepsy. He meant that he didn't want it. Kakashi continued to increase the electric shock. "Do you want another 100,000 taels?" The electric shock increased, and Naruto shook even more violently. Kakashi increased the electric shock again. "Do you want another 10 million taels?" The air was already filled with the smell of burnt feathers. Hinata weakly begged for mercy. "Kakashi, sensei, I'll be cooked if you hit me again." Kakashi let go of his hand, and then stuffed the wood-leaf white tooth into Naruto's arms. "Fix it for me. If you can't fix it, hee." Naruto opened his mouth and black smoke floated out. After a while, he returned to normal and put White Crow into the storage tool on his right wrist. After going out, Naruto looked back at Kakashi and gnashed his teeth. "I will tell Naruto about you electrocuting me. I hope you won't be smashed into a pancake." When Kakashi heard this, he teleported to Naruto's side and was about to give him another electric shock treatment. However, Naruto was already prepared. The second gate of the Hashiman Tonku had been opened before leaving the shop, and a large number of chakra had gathered. At the same time Kakashi used the teleportation technique, the chakra on Naruto's body changed. It compressed the wind blade, and the wind blade exploded. Shikaku's secret technique, Storm Wound, burst out and disappeared in front of Kakashi's eyes in the blink of an eye. Only a sentence echoed in the surroundings. "You're finished. Just wait to be turned into a pancake." Naruto disappeared in the blink of an eye. Kakashi looked at Naruto's disappearing figure in shock. He couldn't believe it. This guy improved again? His speed is faster than mine? Hinata reminded. Naruto left in the direction of Naruto's building. The meaning of this sentence was, Naruto went to find Naruto. Just wait to be turned into a pancake, or if you think you can escape, you can try to escape first. Chapter 182. In front of the barbecue shop, Kakashi hesitated and said, "Naruto won't be so shameless, right?" Hinata blinked. "Is it really okay to say that your boyfriend is shameless in front of his girlfriend?" Kakashi changed the question and asked, "Is Tsunade very protective?" Hinata smiled and said, "I once saw Jiraiya-sama was kicked away by Naruto because of a sentence he said in front of Naruto-sama." Kakashi, if even Jiraiya-sama was sent flying, I feel like it's over. But it's not my fault. I gave my father's precious handwritten letter to that kid, and that kid actually asked me for money. Isn't he asking for a beating?" While Kakashi stood in place and hesitated, Naruto directly jumped into the open window of Naruto's building. The strong wind swept, and the documents on Tsunade's table flew all over the room. When she was about to attack, she saw Naruto covered in blood. Tsunade was angry and shouted, "Didn't you promise me not to use that body flicker technique?" At the same time, Tsunade also trembled, but most of it was not because of anger, but the effect of hemophobia. Shizune wanted to block Tsunade's line of sight with her body. Naruto said, "This is just the exposure therapy. It's a waste to block it." At this time, he still didn't forget the exposure therapy. To be honest, Shizune also admired Naruto. Tsunade's face became paler and paler, and her body trembled more and more. Even Naruto couldn't bear it. She actively summoned 2 multiple shadow clones to quickly heal herself, and at the same time, the bloodstains on her clothes were wiped away with wind blades. Then she began to complain pitifully, "Tsunade-san, if I didn't use this trick, I wouldn't have been able to escape from that guy." You don't know. That guy is too cruel. Look at all the hair on my body. It's all burnt. Also, the smell on my body is like roasted suckling pig. Dolphin's expression was serious. Did the pig provoke you again? Tun Tun couldn't help but get up and snuggle into Quiet Noise's embrace to seek comfort. Tsunade took several deep breaths to calm down. She glanced at Naruto's hands. There really was the smell of roasted pig feet. Looking at Naruto's newly grown eyelashes, they were also curled by the electricity. They broke off in the blink of an eye. It seemed like they had been carbonized. Who did it? She asked in annoyance. Naruto complained, Kakashi, that guy, Sister Tsunade, I'm telling you, that guy is too much. He electrocutes me all the time, whether I'm happy or not. He's a pervert. Tsunade naturally knew what kind of person Naruto was. Sometimes, she even wanted to give Naruto a beating. However, knowing was one thing. His disciple had been taught a lesson by someone else, so he was still unhappy. This was the common mentality of people who were protective of their own. Even if they were wrong, they shouldn't be hit. Even if you should hit him, you shouldn't hit him. In short, you bullied my family. Just you wait. It just so happened that Tsunade was very protective of her own people. Therefore, this seemingly ridiculous request for an adult to help fight was really in line with Naruto's wishes. When Kakashi saw Tsunade coming over with the ragged Naruto, his mood was really complicated. Naruto was actually dragged out to fight to vent his anger. Who would believe this? And I'm also Naruto's instructor, right? It's only right to punish him appropriately. Who can speak for me? Kakashi looked at Hinata. Hinata looked at her toes as if she was measuring which one was bigger and which one was smaller. Hinata. It seems that there's no need to think about it. For a moment, Kakashi felt that he was a failure as a captain. Naruto-sama, Tsunade waved her hand, I'm not here today as Naruto. In one sentence, Kakashi knew that it was over. Tsunade pointed at Naruto and said, Look at the burnt smell on this child's body. Did you electrocute him? Kakashi took a deep breath. Since you're not here as Naruto, then I'll be the judge. He explained, Well, I think as the captain of Naruto, I have the right to punish Naruto's improper behavior. After saying that, Kakashi felt that there was nothing wrong with what he said. Next, Tsunade would ask what improper behavior. At that time, he would tell her that he gave Naruto the precious letter, but Naruto reached out and asked for money. Then even if Tsunade was protecting him, she would still be reasonable, right? There were so many people around. Then, I'll electrocute this kid Naruto again. Even if I find him, I'll still electrocute you. Who told you to have a brain that lacks electricity? However, to Kakashi's surprise, Tsunade asked, You're his captain? When did that happen? If you're Naruto's captain, then I have nothing to say about the management of the team, but the key is, are you? Kakashi wanted to say that of course I am, but he thought of one thing, I'm not really his captain now. Just a few hours ago, Naruto officially announced the disbandment of Team 7. And he was transferred to the Unbound. There was no relationship between him and Naruto at all. And he seems to have never taught Naruto, or pointed out anything to Naruto. This is a pain in the ass. Kakashi had nothing to say. Tsunade smiled and said, Don't worry, I won't bully you. I'll give you time to prepare. Just one punch. After that, no matter how big your injury is, I'll heal you. In addition, Naruto repaired your sword and you gave Naruto's letter. As for Naruto asking you for money, I don't think it's too much. Don't say it's a joke. Naruto told me that he will use live steel to repair your sword. You should have seen the value of live steel. Of course, the most important thing is that I just want to find someone to use monster strength on so that Naruto can understand the key points of this move more clearly. Tsunade smiled, Naruto also smiled, patted his chest and promised, Don't worry, Tsunade-san, I will watch carefully. Tsunade-san? Okay. Kakashi's mood was complicated. Live steel? He naturally knew what it was, but Naruto had live steel in his hands? This surprised him. What surprised him even more was that Naruto was willing to use it to repair his sword. This will be a big favor, at least not less than the letter he gave. Looking at Naruto's expression, there was naturally no hatred or anything. His face was full of pride, nothing more than wanting to beat him. This is even more painful. I'm not afraid of people being unreasonable, but I'm afraid that the unreasonable person is stronger than me. What's more, what he said is quite reasonable. Today, it seems that I can only admit defeat. But he still wants to save it. And for the strength of one of the Sannin, he's also very curious. Kakashi raised his left hand and pulled up his forehead protector, revealing his Sharingan. Kakashi is going to be serious? Naruto reminded in time. Kakashi, sensei, in my experience of courting death, at this time, you pretend to be a salted fish and take the hit honestly. But if you want to resist, you will anger the dragon scale, and the result will be miserable. Also, if you are hospitalized, I won't have time to take care of you. I've been very busy recently. Naruto was telling the truth, but sometimes the truth is the most painful. Kakashi said with a serious expression, I'm ready, and I'm not necessarily going to lose. Kakashi said as he condensed the lightning attribute chakra in his left hand and the water attribute chakra in his right hand. Naruto thought of something and exclaimed, You've researched the fusion of water and lightning Kekkei Genkai? Kakashi said proudly, It's not that difficult. Tsunade saw that Kakashi was so eager to fight, and her own fighting spirit couldn't help but rise, dispelling the fear stimulated by the blood. She raised her thumb and pointed to the side. Field 44, that's more suitable. Chapter 183. Field 44, also known as the Forest of Death. It's the place where Naruto and Chunin will take the exam. Tsunade, Naruto, Shizune, Kakashi, and Hinata came to an open space in the forest. Naruto has also been to this place. It's the desert area where Naruto met my love. Tsunade looked around with satisfaction and said, Here, it's a very soft place, you won't be hurt too much if you fall. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? During this period of time, Kakashi's mind had become a lot clearer. He suddenly realized that he was looking for trouble. One of the Sannin, Tsunade? Did he become a little arrogant recently after developing a new ninjutsu? Also, although Tsunade said that she didn't speak in Naruto's position, the fact is that she's still Naruto. What am I doing? Who can tell me what I'm doing? Kakashi looked at the shadow under his feet with a dead fish face. He hoped that there would be a reliable righteous person to save him at this time. And that guy, Naruto, didn't he just use a little bit of electricity? It's been more than a month since they last saw each other. It's not wrong to store them up for fun, right? Is this a good thing? What a ruthless guy. Kakashi, sensei, are you trembling? Naruto turned around and observed Kakashi. The blue veins on Kakashi's face jumped, thunder and lightning gathered in his hand, and he wanted to give Naruto's face a slap. Naruto suddenly stood still, pointed at him with his finger and asked, What are you doing? You want to electrocute me again? Then he turned around and said to Tsunade coquettishly, Tsunade-san, did you see the scene just now? I didn't do anything out of line, but Kakashi wanted to electrocute me. What a familiar scene. It made Kakashi couldn't help but think of the time when he endured in school. At that time, which idiot was the one who tattled to the teacher all day? He couldn't remember clearly. He seemed to have died. Tsunade waved to Kakashi. Are you ready? If you're ready, I'll go. Since he couldn't avoid it, he would just have to fight. Kakashi glanced at Naruto bitterly. He was still lamenting in his heart. Isn't it just a few more times? Why did you have to find Tsunade, one of the Sannin? Don't you think this is very childish? Sigh, why did Tsunade have to cooperate with such a childish thing? And why did he have to get involved in such a childish matter? Or does Tsunade want to entrust him with an important task and want to take this opportunity to test his strength? This felt much more reliable. Fighting just because of Naruto's provocation, that's too ridiculous. Thoughts flashed through Kakashi's mind. If Shizune knew what Kakashi was thinking, she would definitely snort and say, "You haven't seen anything more ridiculous. What's the big deal about gang fighting? There's even a casino opening together. There's even someone who calls his mother a good son. Besides, I don't know how many times Jiraiya flew because of Naruto's words. What can I say? I can only say that you're too naive. This master and disciple, if you use common sense to infer, you will definitely lose." Shizune held Tun-Tun and Hinata and stood on the side. Naruto shouted to Bet, "Which direction do you think Kakashi-sensei will fly in? The sky or the ground?" This voice was not taboo at all. Anyway, as a ninja, with Kakashi's hearing, could definitely hear it. Therefore, the obedient Hinata and the self-proclaimed decent Shizune were determined not to participate in this meaningless gamble that would attract hatred. On the contrary, Tun-Tun pointed to the ground with her left hand and pointed to the sky with her right hand. Naruto also talked to Tun-Tun. "What do you mean by these two pig feet? Pointing to the sky and the ground? Choose one of the two, I tell you, even if you are a pig, you are doomed to fail." Then Tun-Tun thought about it and pointed to the sky with one hand. Naruto nodded. "Then I will choose the ground. If you win the bet, I can fulfill one of your wishes." One person and one pig looked at each other and hit it off. Kakashi couldn't stand this scene. His left hand condensed the lightning attribute chakra, and his right hand condensed the water attribute chakra, and then he clasped his hands together. The irregular lightning disappeared and was replaced by a cylindrical light belt that condensed together like a neon light tube. The light belt was connected end to end around the body. At the same time, the Sharingan locked on to Tsunade. Tsunade, on the other hand, was much simpler. She just punched him. Chakra instantly released all over her body, and then quickly shrank in her right fist. The next moment, there was a loud bang, and Tsunade disappeared from her place. In the audience, only Hinata could see the afterimage. She punched toward Kakashi. The fist didn't hit Kakashi's body. To be precise, there was still a distance of 2 meters between Tsunade and Kakashi. But the chakra from Tsunade's hand exploded in all directions and hit Kakashi's body. For Kakashi, Tsunade's punch was very straight. He saw it. But he didn't have time to dodge. The moment the fist hit his body, he felt as if he was hit by a wild boar up to 3 or 4 meters high. The strong wind suddenly poured into his eyes, nose, and ears. He only felt that his whole body was hit by the airflow in an instant, and his body flew out. Kakashi flew. Tun-Tun won. But now the key was obviously not this, but Kakashi didn't even have the power to fight back under Tsunade's punch. He flew up, 100 meters? Or even higher in the sky. After more than 10 seconds, he plunged down. Tsunade explained, "Just now, I used 4 layers of Yang chakra superimposed on the monstrous strength, but the power was not concentrated in one place, but spread out to produce the effect." Naruto immediately flattered, "Tsunade-san is mighty." Just a casual punch and Kakashi has no power to fight back. Tsunade shook her head and corrected, "It won't be so easy to hit him again. The reason for this effect should be that he didn't expect that I would hit him with air. With the dynamic vision of the Sharingan, he can see my movement trajectory and then react at the moment when I get close to him. Therefore, he was hit because of a mistake in judgment. In addition, this isn't a real battle, so his vigilance is somewhat lax." Tsunade's evaluation was very objective and accurate, but it didn't affect Naruto's flattery. Naruto smiled and said, "It doesn't matter whether he was careless or not, and it doesn't matter whether he didn't expect it. I killed him with one punch. I killed him with one punch. In a real battle, who cares if you're prepared or not? Tsunade-san even asked him to be prepared. So, he's still too much of a scumbag." Kakashi was falling. Although the wind caused by the palm was fierce, the power was not concentrated in one place, so he didn't suffer any injuries. Only the moment the wind rushed into his ears, he was a little confused. When he fell, he was still very awake, so he heard Naruto's words very clearly. "So painful. What should I do? I was blown away with one punch." I'm too ashamed to see anyone. It's better to pretend to be dead. As a result, Kakashi didn't receive any damage in the air, but because he was pretending to be dead, he fell straight to the ground with a thud, just like a broken sack falling from a high altitude and hitting the ground. Kakashi was pretending to be dead. Hinata didn't remove the Byakugan, so she directly saw the scene of Chakra rushing out to protect himself at the moment of falling. But she was very obedient, so she didn't say anything. Tsunade didn't need to say anything. She knew best what kind of strength she used and what kind of effect it had. But she understood that she shouldn't say anything. She was used to Jiraiya pretending to be a bad guy sometimes. Shizun had been with Tsunade for a long time, and her medical ninjutsu wasn't bad. Naruto, the rising star of the medical ninjutsu world, real fainting wasn't a problem for him. Don't say anything? Hee, okay, I won't say anything this time. Naruto smiled and exclaimed, "Ah, Kakashi, sensei seems to have fainted. I have a quick-acting medicine here. I have to give one to Kakashi, sensei." So he took out a durian-flavored thought candy. For a moment, Tsunade and Shizun stared at Naruto a few meters away. But Tubu was excited and jumped down from Shizun's arms. Shizun stopped Tubu, but Tubu told Naruto with stubborn little eyes, "I won. You said you would fulfill my wish." Naruto didn't know if others understood, but Naruto understood. Then he flicked the candy into Tubu's mouth. Shizun was so scared that she dropped Tubu and ran away. Tubu showed a satisfied expression when the durian candy entered his mouth. Then Naruto carried Tubu, like a posture for a child, opened Tubu's thighs, and directly faced Kakashi's face. Kakashi was sleeping soundly. Naruto and Tubu looked at each other. Their eyes were full of you-know-what-I-mean. What was rare was that Tsunade could have stopped this tragedy from happening, but instead she stood on the side and watched the show. Perhaps it was because she had fallen for this trick in the past, so, when she saw others fall for it, there was a subtle balance in her heart. Hinata didn't know what was going on, so she quietly asked, "What is Naruto doing?" Shizun and Tsunade looked at each other, then pursed their lips and shook their heads at the same time. It seemed they were looking forward to it. It was just that they didn't know if they were looking forward to Kakashi being embarrassed, or looking forward to Naruto being beaten to death by Kakashi. It had been 15 seconds since Tubu ate the candy. 20 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Naruto, fire. However, there was no movement. Everyone was looking forward to it. Suddenly, Tubu's face wrinkled as if he was in pain. Then he opened his mouth and sneezed. Sneeze? Shizun and Tsunade were puzzled. But Naruto already had a bad feeling. Could it be that he took the wrong candy? A sneezed candy. Why does it look so familiar? Then, Tubu sneezed 3 times in a row. On the second sneeze, something unknown shot out. Then, with the third sneeze, it turned from dry to wet. The angle was right in Kakashi's face. Tubu looked at Naruto in pain. The expression in his eyes said very clearly, "What did you give me to eat?" Naruto shrugged his shoulders, put down Tubule, and ran away. As soon as Tubu landed, he subconsciously wanted to chase after Naruto, but his stomach was in pain, and he bent his front legs and shot behind him. It hit Kakashi again, and by this time, Naruto had already run as far as he could. In the end, he muttered to himself, "It's over, it's over, it's over, Tsunade can't save herself." Then he thought, "That's not right, if a pig has a bad stomach and diarrhea, it's the pig's fault." Then, he suddenly stopped and went to catch Tubu again. "Tubu? Why did you eat something bad? What did Shizun give you? Ouch. Don't run around and poop." Tubu sneezed, and something slippery scurried behind him. Kakashi finally sat up, opened his hands, and looked at his stinky body. And his dripping hair? "It's raining?" Kakashi was confused. "What's so smelly?" Then, in a daze, he saw Tun scurrying like a goose. Then, he looked at Naruto, who was making a fuss, and screamed, "Naruto." Naruto stood at attention and replied honestly, "It's not me, it's not me, it's Tubu's poop." Tubu, holding his stomach in pain, turned around and pointed his butt at Naruto. Naruto dodged, then pointed at Tubu and said, "Look, I don't know what's wrong with this pig, but he's pointing his butt at everyone." Naruto dodged and hid behind Shizune. Kakashi's body trembled, still staring at Naruto, gritted his teeth and said, "Ming. Human." Then, lightning flashed, and the body flicker technique approached. Naruto was already on guard, and under the second gate of the 8 inner hidden gates, the wind blade exploded. Storm wound. Whoosh. A strong wind swept over, leaving only one sentence, "I'm sorry, I have to use it again." Tsunade and Shizune looked at each other, then looked at the pitiful Tubu, who was holding his stomach and whimpering. Shizune walked in front of him and scolded, "Who told you to eat blindly?" Tubu's mood wasn't good to begin with. "I'm already like this, and you're still scolding me." In a fit of anger, he raised his butt at Shizune and smacked her. Shizune froze on the spot, then screamed desperately, "Ming. Human. Go to hell." At this time, Naruto was running for his life in the distance, shouting, "Ah! Ah! Ah! Kakashi is pooping his pants. Ah! 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 Who can save me? He's going to wipe me." Kakashi's face was red, and lightning shot out. The slimy things on his body were cooked, but the smell became worse. There was a smell of burning horse dung. Chapter 184. In terms of Naruto's ability to seek death, in the entire Wood Leaf and even in the entire ninja world, no one would dare to say that they are the second best. But this time, Naruto felt wronged. It wasn't part of his plan to have diarrhea or something like that, okay? He just wanted to use a fart candy, so that even if Kakashi was super upset and embarrassed, he would not dare to provoke Naruto because of the lesson he just learned from being beaten by Tsunade. This was Naruto's original plan, also known as the fox borrowing the tiger's might plan. However, he never expected that a durian-flavored fart candy would become a diarrhea candy after being eaten by Tough. Where did the plan go wrong? Naruto looked back while running for his life, and finally remembered. When he was making the diarrhea candy, he seemed to have wrapped one of the candies into a durian-flavored fart candy. At that time, it was for the thrill. But now, it was really thrilling. Who is Kakashi? Wood Leaf Copy Ninja Kakashi. Although this name was not as big as one of the Wood Leaf Sannin, nor was it as big as the Yellow Flash, but it was definitely not to be underestimated. He graduated from Ninja Academy at the age of 5, and was promoted to Chunin at the age of 6. How could he be an ordinary person? The number of lives on his hands added up could probably be around Wood Leaf for 2 weeks. But such a powerful person was actually sneezed in the face by Tough after eating a diarrhea candy, and the person who shouted at Tough to fire was Naruto. In a sense, what Naruto did was the most powerful. It was absolutely unprecedented, and it was unprecedented. Kakashi pooped his pants. Naruto shouted, and the sound could be heard through 2 Wood Leaf streets. The thunder behind him became more and more fierce, and Naruto ran all the way down. It could be said that sparks and lightning were all the way. But this was not what Naruto wanted. Naruto thought that when he shouted, Kakashi would more or less hesitate and stop chasing. This possibility was at least 80% in Naruto's calculation. However, Kakashi not only did not stop, but also chased more fiercely. This could only mean that Kakashi at this time was definitely not in the range of normal people. This was dangerous, very dangerous. If he really caught up, he was afraid that he would be pierced through by Chidori. What should I do? Should I do something more poisonous? Naruto yelled again. Who can save me? Kakashi pooped his pants wants to wipe my body. If the first shout was said to be a critical hit of over 10,000 points, this shout was multiplied 10 times more than 10 times. The speed of the thunder behind him increased speed. However, what surprised everyone was that Naruto's speed suddenly increased again before he died. On a very tall tree in the 44th examination room, Tsunade stood at the top of the tree and looked at the place where the lightning flashed in the distance. Shizun beside her had taken off her clothes, then lit them on the spot and threw them far away. She didn't have to wash and wear them again. Naruto could definitely be said to be the first person to force the thrifty Shizun to this point. Shizun jumped on the high branch and said angrily, "What's the situation? Naruto was caught by Kakashi and beaten up, right?" Tsunade frowned and replied, "I can't see clearly, but from the movement of the thunder, Naruto should still be running away." Still running away? Although Shizun didn't personally experience Kakashi's strength and hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she had read a lot of files about Kakashi in Naruto's office. After all, this is the homework that must be done to assist Tsunade. So she still knows how powerful Kakashi is. As for not using his full strength, it's impossible. Being sprayed in the face by Tun, Kakashi must be furious at this time. Even if it's not to the extent of killing Naruto, it's absolutely necessary to beat him up. This is human nature. Think about it, if you wake up with a knife on your head, you will definitely pick up a knife. But in this case, Naruto can still escape. Although Shizun hated Naruto to the point that her teeth itched and she wanted to throw away his corpse, she had to admit that she admired him. At the moment, she also stood beside Tsunade and looked to admire Wood Leaf and even the entire ninja world's #1 death-seeking expert. However, her eyesight was not as good as Tsunade's. If what Tsunade saw was lightning, then what she saw was only sparks. At this time, she really wanted to bring a telescope, but that kind of thing is carried by Jiraiya, who likes to peep. Shizun was a little dejected, then she saw Hinata, and her eyes suddenly lit up. When Shizun looked at Hinata, Tsunade also thought of the same thing, and both of them looked at Hinata. Hinata had just climbed up from under the tree, and she was a little flustered by the two of them. Tsunade smiled and said, "Hinata, is your Byakugan practice okay?" Hinata nodded, because Naruto said many times that her biggest advantage was a pair of Byakugan, so now she will practice hard every day. Tsunade and Shizun looked at each other and smiled. So, Hinata was invited to the side of the two. "Come on, Hinata, use your Byakugan to stare at Naruto, and then broadcast the battle situation to us." How dare Hinata not listen to Naruto-sama's order, and she originally wanted to come up and see. So she opened her Byakugan and looked at Naruto. It was a wind, and it was a very fierce storm. If it was in front of her, Hinata would never be confident that she could catch the trace of the wind with her eyes, unless Naruto's position was within 20 meters of her, within a 360 vision range. And the light that was chasing the wind was too fast for her to catch up. But now that she was far away, she could see more clearly, just like the plane was obviously very fast, but the people on the ground only looked like an ant moving. Hinata and Naruto's distance was not as exaggerated as the distance between a person and a plane, but it was almost the same, so she could still clearly see Naruto's figure. At the same time, she also saw that Naruto's face and body were bleeding. She couldn't help but exclaim. Shizun, who was next to Tsunade, asked about the situation, and after learning that Naruto was bleeding, Shizun waved her hand and comforted her, "Don't worry too much, that's the side effect of Naruto's body flicker technique. Do you see now that Kakashi has caught up with Naruto? How far are the two of them?" Hinata suppressed the worry in her heart and said, "The distance was 5 meters just now, then Naruto's speed increased again, and the distance was pulled to 10 meters, Kakashi, Sensei then sped up, and the two of them are now between 8 and 10 meters. 8 to 10 meters seems very far, but in the speed of Naruto and Kakashi, it was less than a blink of an eye." This kind of speed made Shizun secretly speechless. At the same time, she said in disbelief, "Kakashi won't be unable to catch up with Naruto, right?" Tsunade listened to Hinata's broadcast while looking at the lightning in the sky, pursed her lips, and said, "Naruto's chakra's 7-fold burst might increase to 8-fold today, or even more." At the same time, while the storm and lightning flashed on the roof of Wood Leaf, 5 people stood on the roof of the store manager's villa. The Sakuragi sisters, and the 3 new guests who recently moved in. Big Gunny sensed the eruption of chakra in the Wood Leaf, and the lightning in the sky, and said, "That guy is being chased by someone, aren't we going to reinforce him?" Big Gunny pulled Big Gunny's hand worriedly, and Big Gunny actually moved his wheelchair to the roof. At this time, he sat in the wheelchair and replied, "Let's wait." Although the opponent's chakra is violent, she doesn't have the determination to kill that kid, so let's wait and see. Besides, that kid's speed is increasing, and this is a rare kind of training for him. Training. If Naruto knew that someone was chewing on melon seeds while commenting like this, he would definitely chase that person out of the store manager's house. He was risking his life, okay? Chapter 185. Naruto was fighting with all his might. The 2 wounds on his face were only 2 or 3 centimeters away from his eyes. If it went up a little, his eyes would go blind. Or if it went down a little, his neck would bleed. It was extremely dangerous. At the same time, the wound on his thigh was only 3 or 4 centimeters away from a lump of meat in the middle. There were wounds on his front thigh, and there were also wounds on his back. It could be said that one was his life, and the other was his lifeblood. Was this cultivation? What kind of cultivation was this? Go to the F*King cultivation. I'm F*King risking my life. Naruto tried his best to control the wind blades, and his spiritual power went from being relaxed at the beginning to not daring to blink. The speed was getting faster and faster, the wind blades were getting more and more compressed, and the explosion was getting more and more violent, and the danger was getting greater and greater. There was no room for mistakes. His spiritual power had never reached such a high level of concentration. His whole person also entered an almost ethereal state, and all distracting thoughts were completely abandoned. All of his spiritual power was focused on how to solve the problem in front of him. There was no need to think about the multiple shadow clone technique. Even if the multiple shadow clone technique didn't need chakra to stabilize, it still needed time, and Naruto didn't have time at all. The distance between the 2 was 8 or 9 meters, and in the blink of an eye, as long as he raised his hand to make a seal, he would be caught up. In addition, if he made a seal, he would be distracted, and the result would be that the wind blades that he was barely able to control might directly go out of control. Becoming a eunuch would be a small thing, and the terrifying thing would be that a wind blade would cut off his head. So the only thing he could do now was to be faster. How to control the wind blades. Only these 2 points were the best way to solve the current crisis. At this moment, the various effects of chakra stimulation on the body recorded in Tsunade's handbook came to mind. If he could burst out chakra's power 8 times, 9 times, or even 10 times, then he might be able to escape Kakashi's pursuit. Naruto began to adjust his body according to the records in Tsunade's handbook. Gradually, Naruto's speed began to steadily increase, and the wind blades showed no signs of further loss of control. In the face of danger, Zhang Xian focused his mind and came to a realization. His consciousness then entered a state of forgetting everything around him. His thoughts gradually changed from how to be faster to how to use the records in the handbook on himself. His speed increased again and again, and the number of wounds on his body increased every 10 seconds. After that, he added one every 20 seconds, and another every 30 seconds. Naruto's body was producing less and less explosive sounds, but his speed was getting faster and faster. His footsteps were lighter and lighter, and the number of roofs that he stepped on was also getting fewer and fewer. Hinata witnessed this scene. At the same time, everyone also sensed the change in Chakra's aura. For example, the 5 people on the roof of the store manager's house. Of course, the one who was most shocked was Kakashi, who was hot on his heels. At this time, the stench on Kakashi's body had long been washed away by the lightning, and the hostility in his heart had also dissipated by a large part due to Chakra's rapid suppression. The several moments when he caught up with Naruto were still vivid in his mind. Every time, Naruto was able to escape from a desperate situation and suddenly escape from his hands. The first few times undoubtedly angered him, but as his speed became faster and faster, his anger also turned into shock. Shocked by Naruto's speed, shocked by Naruto's progress. It's only been a few days? The current Naruto actually gave him the illusion that it was the first time he saw him. When did this guy learn the wind escape technique? It seems that he started learning it a long time ago. That was after the mission in the Wave Country. But at that time, Naruto was just practicing how to condense wind blades and then use his sword to use them. This doesn't seem to have anything to do with the wind release body flicker technique. Even if it has something to do with it, like his lightning release body flicker technique and Chidori, it shouldn't have that much of a relationship. After all, a person's talent should be limited, at least it should be reasonable. Another point is that the mission in the Wave Country was only a few months ago. Chakra was burning. Kakashi wanted to catch up with that guy. It didn't matter whether he taught him a lesson or not. The important thing was that he found that if he couldn't catch this guy, first of all, he would lose face, and second, he had a hunch that if he couldn't catch this guy this time, he might not have a chance to catch him in the future. This is a terrible premonition of Naruto's progress speed. Chakra poured into the Sharingan, and the Sharingan locked on Naruto. The speed that needs to be locked on by the Sharingan is Chidori. Kakashi opened the Sharingan, and at the moment when the lightning changed, Naruto was in the state of clear thoughts, so he was very keenly aware of the faint change in Chakra's breath behind him. Warning signs appeared in his mind, and his thoughts ran faster. One by one, the knowledge points in the handbook rushed into his mind. If he had to describe it, it would be that the single-core system suddenly evolved into a dual-core system, or even a multi-core system. This is something that ordinary people can't do, but for Naruto, whose soul power was already abnormally strong, even using spirit transformation couldn't squeeze his soul out of his acupoints because his soul was too fat. This point is reasonable. Dozens of knowledge points that he didn't understand, and directly used the theory in the book on his body. Problems were inevitable. The wind blades on Naruto's body showed signs of going out of control again, but the speed also increased abruptly. Naruto's mind was multitasking, and his thoughts ran at high speed to correct the mistakes. At the same time, other thoughts were also forcing other knowledge points and theories on Naruto's body. The result was that the wounds on Naruto's body not only didn't get better, but also continued to increase. What's more dangerous is, in this state, because the thoughts were fully integrated with the knowledge points, the pain warning signals produced by the body were all ignored. To put it simply, at this moment, Naruto couldn't feel the pain on his body, and all the negative information. The result. Maybe in the next moment, the wind blades on Naruto's body would cut off the flesh between his legs, or the blade would slit his throat. Or maybe he would be cut in half, and the wind blades would dismember his corpse. Kakashi's body exploded with lightning, and lightning gathered in his hands. This is Chidori, or the even more dangerous Reiki. The lightning in Kakashi's hands was a little different from the Chidori used by Sasuke. It was more condensed, more dangerous, and faster. Is Kakashi crazy? Maybe at this moment, Kakashi's thoughts were similar to Naruto's, entering a state of confusion. The moment Reiki's light lit up, a murderous aura appeared above the wood leaf. Tsunade's hair stood on end, and an ominous premonition arose in her heart. But it was too late. They were too far away. It might be possible to break the Een seal and enter the state of creation regeneration. But it would take time to break the Een seal, and it would take time to enter the state of creation regeneration. And time was of the essence right now. The moment danger appeared above the wood leaf, the 5 people on the rooftop of the store manager's building were startled. Big Gunny leaned over, and Chakra was about to explode. Gunny stood up from his wheelchair, and his clothes fluttered without wind. To them, Naruto was their benefactor, so he couldn't die. But just as Chakra was about to explode, Haru Sakuratani appeared beside the 2 girls with an expressionless face. She pressed her hands on their bodies, and the 2 girls were instantly immobilized. Naruto won't die. Haru Sakuratani spoke calmly. Natsuya Sakuraji's eyes widened, and she stared expectantly at the sky, waiting for the moment when the storm would break through the sky. Naruto in the midst of the thunder of 10,000 hells. Wounds crisscrossed on his body, and his body cried out blood in the storm. The 360 entries recorded in Tsunade's handwritten notes, and thousands of notes, all exploded on this body at once. Whether he was alive or dead, whether he was a eunuch or an emperor, it all came down to a single thought. Chapter 186. Sharingan locked on to Naruto. Raikiri locked on to Naruto's body. This blow was not to kill him, but to catch him. Kakashi's Raikiri was launched. The rhythm of the electric pulse crossed over the wood leaf, and the dazzling light could compete with the sun. The light under the flash of lightning was the pride of the wood leaf and the fear of the enemy. And today it suddenly bloomed just because it wanted to catch a kid. The moment Raikiri was used, Kakashi's spirit returned to normal. What the hell am I doing? Even if I use it, why not use Chidori? Why Raikiri? I want to use Chidori, right? I want to use Chidori, right? Because Chidori has 5 seals and Raikiri has 3? And 3 seals must be faster than 5 seals? This may be the truth, but what the hell am I doing? Chasing a kid, what if I kill him? Raikiri has been used, and his body launched in a straight line under the rules of thunder and lightning. Want to stop? It's too late. If it's Chidori, he still has the ability to pause. But Raikiri is an S-class ninjutsu, and even he has some difficulty using it. Control. It doesn't exist. I'm going to kill the 4th generation's child. Then after killing him, I'll also kill myself. This was Kakashi's last thought. This idea also appeared in Tsunade's mind. But it's not to kill himself, but to kill that person. Tsunade didn't have time to open the Een seal, and the moment it was opened, it might be over. So 5 layers of Chakra's superimposed power burst out, and with a loud bang, it shot out like a cannonball. Maybe it still can't catch up, but at least it can save him. And at the same time, beat the guy who killed his apprentice to death. Lightning surged. Kakashi approached Naruto in an instant. What was worth celebrating was that Naruto's trajectory didn't change. After all, it happened in an instant. If Raikiri will miss, then Naruto won't die. There is still a chance. Under the dynamic vision of Sharingan, Kakashi witnessed what happened in microseconds, which was 1,000 times smaller than milliseconds. At the moment when Raikiri was about to miss, something happened that made Kakashi desperate. Naruto's trajectory changed. Naruto suddenly accelerated, exposing the middle of his body to Raikiri. At this time, Raikiri's speed was still rising. In other words, without a miracle, if Naruto's speed explodes 10 times, his arm will penetrate Naruto's body in the next moment, and then, at this moment, Kakashi really wanted to strangle Naruto alive. Why did he have to court death? It was also at this moment that Naruto used all the knowledge points in Tsunade's handbook on his body. 10 times chakra power explosion. And it's 10 times the wind attribute chakra explosion. Wind blade expanded 10 times, compressed and exploded. In an instant, the wounds on Naruto's body were like fireworks, and dozens of wounds appeared in the explosion. At the same time, his speed. His body beautifully dodged Raikiri's attack in front of his body. Kakashi's original plan was to miss Naruto's left side, but now, Raikiri missed Naruto's right side. Whether it was left or right, Naruto dodged. The instant burst of more than 10 times speed made Naruto appear 100 meters away from Kakashi's right side in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the wind blade that exploded on Naruto's body was bloody red, like a purgatory azura. A wind blade blew on Kakashi's face, and Kakashi's mask was directly cut open, and even blood was seen. This is an extremely sharp wind blade. If it was cut on the neck, the center, the head should be directly cut off. What kind of body flicker technique is Naruto's body? Those bloody wind blades, as well as those bloody people. Then Kakashi didn't have time to think. When an explosion sounded in his ear, his body was punched into the sky. It was Tsunade, who came a little late. Tsunade saw that Naruto was fine, and she had already reduced a lot of her strength, but it was definitely not as gentle as before. Kakashi heard the sound of bones breaking, and more than one. Forget it. Anyway, Tsunade-sama said that no matter how badly I was beaten, she would save me. After being hit, Kakashi's thoughts were more straightforward. As for teaching Naruto a lesson or something, he didn't have that idea at all. Naruto can't be provoked, he's a madman, he can't be beaten or scolded, he can only bully others. Even if he dies, he can't be bullied back. How can there be such a guy in the world? Can he be reasonable? Then Kakashi fainted. Tsunade looked at Naruto and wanted to treat Naruto, but her blood pressure was acting up. Naruto's body was covered in blood, and that appearance was too big of an impact on her. Just a cut on her finger was enough to make her unable to control herself, let alone a bloody person standing in front of her. Naruto smiled brightly. I'm fine, the injuries on my body are all flesh wounds, I'll go treat myself, and then come back to you to learn monster strength. By the way, I learned how to use chakra 10 times. I'll show you later. In fact, Naruto wanted to say a few more words, but seeing Tsunade's face was as white as paper because of her blood pressure, he thought about it and gave up. This was the roof of wood leaf, and Tsunade's blood pressure was not good to be seen by others. Naruto didn't use the Hashiman Tonku, nor did he use the wind release body flicker technique. He directly used the ordinary chakra to increase his strength by 10 times and disappeared from the roof. Tsunade watched Naruto's figure disappear, and wanted to stop him so that she could treat him personally. But her body didn't live up to her expectations, and she couldn't even move. Compared to her apprentice who could learn to use chakra 10 times the power in 2 weeks, her master who was even afraid of blood was really weak. Tsunade felt a little guilty, but also proud. Her eyes fell on Naruto's bloody footprints, and she wanted to use the exposure therapy that Naruto said to break through herself. But except for making her body tremble more, there seemed to be nothing else. Tsunade-sama. Metke rushed over here. Just now, he was practicing on the other side of the mountain, and then he felt the flash of lightning on the wood leaf, so he rushed back. So he saw Tsunade's face was not so good. Tsunade closed her eyes, turned her gaze away, took a deep breath, and replied, I'm fine, you go and see Kakashi. Kakashi? Was the lightning just now really Kakashi? Metke rushed back because of the lightning connection and thought of Kakashi. So where is Kakashi? Metke saw the bloody footprints at first glance. His expression then became serious, and he looked up again, looking into the distance, and finally found Kakashi who had smashed 7 or 8 houses in the distance. You have to hold on. My best friend. Metke rushed over. Then Tsunade's voice sounded beside him, don't move him, he should have many fractures. But this sentence was said too late. Metke had already picked up Kakashi with a confused face, and he was carrying him in a princess carry. The second injury after the fracture. When Metke was about to put Kakashi down, Tsunade spoke again, don't put him down, just hold him in this position and carry him to the hospital, I'll be there soon, don't worry, I'll cure him. Metke took a few steps, then turned back and asked, who beat Kakashi like this? Metke's eyes were burning with the fire of revenge. Tsunade looked up at Metke and replied, me. Metke's fire of revenge was instantly extinguished, and he changed the topic, I'll take him to the hospital now. Revenge on Tsunade? Are you kidding me? Didn't you see that his best friend who had always won against him was beaten into an idiot? However, there was one thing that Metke was more curious about. Kakashi had always been strict, and he was once Naruto-sama's right-hand man. How did he provoke Tsunade? Just as Metke was carrying Kakashi to the hospital, Naruto returned to the store manager's house. Someone, come and help me, I've lost a lot of dragon blood today, and I'm a little dizzy. Xia obediently came over and asked curiously, who am I? Is it Master's new name? Naruto's body went limp, and he fainted directly, unable to hold on due to the excessive blood loss. Today was a big game, but I also gained a lot. This was Naruto's last thought before he fainted. Chapter 187. After Naruto fainted, Toph was hugged by Shizune with his legs open. Toph was so sad. Toph didn't want to sneeze anymore. But the damn sneezes couldn't stop one after another. And that damned stomach of hers. She had already gone to the toilet and it still hurt. Toph looked at Shizune with tears in his eyes. The meaning in his eyes was easy to understand. Save me, I'm still your good pet. What can Shizune say? It's impossible to ask Naruto for the antidote. Naruto should be unable to protect himself now. After Tsunade rushed out, Shizune knew from Hinata that Naruto was in danger. Then Hinata also rushed back. She originally wanted to chase after them, but Tough was still having diarrhea. Who told you to eat carelessly? Shizun looked at her pig and was speechless. In a sense, the reason why this pig was in so much pain was because he won against Naruto once. Stay away from that guy in the future, remember. Tough nodded again and again. Naruto made him miserable this time. He swore that he would never be friends with Naruto again. Of course, all the naughty children who were beaten by their parents made such an oath. But the result? It can only be said that meeting Naruto ruined the pig's life. On the other side, Kakashi, who also ruined the pig's life, had been woken up by Guy's warm embrace for some time, but Tsunade-sama, who said she would save him, had not appeared. Kakashi lay in the intensive care unit and watched the clock tick away. He couldn't help but ask Met-K, who accompanied him, "Where is Naruto-sama?" Met-K was also very anxious, but he didn't dare to rush Tsunade because he didn't know what she was thinking. He could only reply with Tsunade's previous words, "Naruto-sama is preparing." Preparing? Kakashi said that he had been awake for almost half an hour. Kakashi looked at his swollen arm. After the fracture, he was carried to the hospital by Met-K. During this period, he couldn't count how many injuries he had suffered. He wouldn't be disabled like this, right? Kai, this idiot. After scolding Guy in his heart, Kakashi thought for a while and scolded himself for being an idiot. Why would he provoke Naruto for no reason? That guy was a dung beetle, pushing a dung ball in his hand. Whoever touched it would be unlucky. Dung beetle? Shitball? This description was really vivid. In the future, he would be called a dung beetle. Bald dung beetle? A bald shitball? A bald dung beetle pushing a dung ball? Kakashi's heart had already begun to turn black due to his resentment. Next door to the intensive care unit, Tsunade was waiting for someone to come. Because Kakashi had wounds and blood on his body, she couldn't treat him herself. So she needed an assistant. Usually, Jing-in would be by her side, but right now, Jing-in was taking care of Tun-Tun. This was awkward. "Are you looking for me, Tsunade-sama?" Hana Fujita hurried over. She had just received news that Tsunade was looking for her at the sanatorium and immediately rushed over. Tsunade was relieved to see Hana Fujita and pointed to the ward next door. "Go and clean up the patient's body inside. Bandage the wound temporarily and try to correct the position of the fracture. In short, the most important thing is to clean up the blood and then leave it to me." Hana Fujita had more or less guessed that Tsunade had hematophobia. After all, she was also present at the incident last time. So she quickly nodded and walked into the ward. Kakashi's dead fish face changed the moment he saw Hana Fujita. He calmed down and was a little nervous. "Hana Fujita? Why are you here?" This question was a little silly. This was a hospital, and Hana was a medical ninja. If she wasn't here, where would she be? Of course, it could also be understood as "I'm here, so you're here too." Kakashi's heart suddenly became a little restless, and his resentment towards the dung beetle dissipated for a moment. He had a fracture this time, and a fracture would definitely require hospitalization. The hospital was Hana Fujita's home, so did that mean he was living in Hana Fujita's home? And Hana Fujita was by his side taking care of him? If he thought about it this way, a fracture was actually quite good, as long as he didn't become disabled. Just as Shizun was taking care of Tun-Tun, and Hana Fujita was treating Kakashi's wound, Hinata found Naruto through Byakugan. When did 3 more girls appear in this house? This was Hinata's subconscious reaction. After Byakugan saw through the 3 girls' prosthetics, she thought of the recent rumors. There were rumors about Naruto helping disabled people create mobile prosthetics. Naruto's image became taller at this moment. She raised her hand and was about to press the doorbell when she saw the girls taking off Naruto's clothes. The pink-haired girl began to seriously clean Naruto's wound, and the blue-haired girl assisted on the side. "Isn't it a bad idea to go in now?" Hinata's hand hovered over the doorbell. She felt that she should press it now, but the scene inside, Naruto was already naked. It didn't seem too good to go in. But, she was Naruto's girlfriend. Shouldn't she be the one treating Naruto's wound now? Under Byakugan, Hinata admitted that whether it was the blue-haired girl or the pink-haired girl, they were all very professional. But, even if they were professional, she should be the one doing it. What right do you have to look at Naruto's body? Press the doorbell and go in? Although that was what she thought, her hand couldn't press it. Hinata was very conflicted. The people inside were very fast, and Naruto was soon wrapped up like a mummy, and then hung on the sofa in the living room. Now, there was nothing she could do if she went in. Hinata stood outside and watched. The blue-haired girl went to cook, and the pink-haired girl assisted on the side. Among the others, the youngest girl stayed by Naruto's side, sitting in a wheelchair with a bored expression on her face. The tallest girl placed Naruto's ninja equipment neatly on the side, and then threw the tattered clothes into the trash can. Hinata silently closed her Byakugan and turned around to leave. When she came, she jumped over the wall to get in because she was in a hurry. When she left, she felt like a thief no matter how she looked at it. Hinata's heart was very uncomfortable, and her mind was in a mess. Would she come here again? She still had Naruto's address in her pocket. Naruto will wake up tomorrow. Then I'll come and visit Naruto tomorrow? Hinata looked back at the luxurious mansion behind her. Compared to this house, Hinata found that she preferred the small one Naruto used to live in. If Naruto likes to live in such a big house, then I'll buy one for Naruto. But the money is definitely not enough. How can I make money? Hinata's mind was even more confused. Not long after Hinata left, Naruto sniffed and said, "What smells so good?" When little Gunny saw that Naruto had woken up, he jumped up happily and clapped his hands. "Big brother, you're awake. Sister Xia cooked. She said you lost too much blood, and she wanted to make you more nourishing." Naruto turned his head, and the wounds on his body didn't hurt that much. He didn't seem to have time to treat himself before he fainted. Then who was the one who bandaged him? Was it also Xia? However, although the wounds didn't hurt, they weren't completely healed. Naruto raised his hands and made a hand seal, and 4 Naruto clones appeared beside Naruto. Then, he used the divine palm technique to treat himself. 10 minutes later, Naruto began to remove the bandages. It was simple and crude. After a wind blade, his body felt cool. Naruto lowered his head. Little Naruto was saluting Naruto because he suddenly sat up and accumulated blood. Gunny, who was sitting in a wheelchair, praised, "Tisk, you've developed quite quickly. You should be considered a big boy now. It's a pity that your hair isn't fully grown yet." Naruto was shocked. With a scream, Naruto disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then, he ran naked to his room. Midway, Xia suddenly appeared and said, "Master, you're awake. The food is ready." Naruto, who was running naked, felt awkward and ran even faster. When he rushed into his room, he suddenly realized that the ninja storage item on his wrist wasn't with him. There were no clothes in the room either. Not even pajamas. Did Xia take them to wash? In the end, Naruto could only crawl out of the room wrapped in a blanket and asked weakly, "Where's my ninja storage item?" Naruto stood in the corridor on the 2nd floor and looked down at the hall. Gunny pointed at the sofa where Naruto had been lying. There were all the things that were taken from Naruto's tattered clothes neatly arranged. He said indifferently, "What are you shy about?" "Everyone saw it when I applied the medicine for you just now." Naruto's face darkened. "Everyone means..." Gunny smirked. "Everyone, of course." By the way, little Gunny felt that the little earthworm was very special. He even flicked it with his finger and the little earthworm turned into a big earthworm. Should he take his clothes? Naruto only wanted to find a place to hide. Or dig a hole and bury himself alive. Naruto returned to his room and locked himself in. "Master, is it time to eat? Do you want to come out and eat, or do you want me to bring it in?" Naruto hugged his blanket and replied, "Your master is dead. If there's anything, I'll burn him some paper money." Then, Xia blinked as if he suddenly thought of something. He said, "By the way, master, after you came back, a little girl came to the house and kept looking at you with supercilious eyes. Is she your friend?" "Little girl? Supercilious eyes? Hinata?" Hinata came and looked at me from outside? How long did she look at me? When did she come? Was it before or after I was stripped naked? Or after applying the medicine? But Hinata should have seen me naked. After all, there was supercilious eyes. Then, did Hinata see when little Gunny flicked Naruto? Naruto felt so desperate, so embarrassing. He wanted to kill himself. At the same time, in the corridor, little Gunny looked at Gunny blankly and asked, "Who's the little earthworm? When did I flick the little earthworm? And why did the little earthworm turn into a big earthworm after I flick it?" Gunny chuckled and said, "About that, I was just teasing him. How could little Gunny do such a dirty thing?" Little Gunny nodded as if he understood. Then, he thought of something and asked Gunny, "Just now, I saw something different between Big Brother Naruto's legs. What's that? It's so ugly." Cough, cough, cough. Gunny spat out a mouthful of coffee and went to find a mop while coughing violently. Gunny was left behind with an awkward expression. Little Gunny shook Gunny's arm and said, "You know, right? Tell me." Gunny hesitated for a long time and said helplessly, "That's the little earthworm." Little Gunny tilted his head and said, "It's the little earthworm? But I didn't flick it." Gunny said seriously, "That's why I said I was just teasing Big Brother Naruto." Little Gunny was confused again. "Why did you flick the little earthworm to tease Big Brother Naruto? Big Brother Naruto doesn't like it when people flick his little earthworm?" Pfft. Gunny couldn't take it anymore. She realized she had given herself a difficult problem, which was how to explain the little earthworm to little Gunny. Big Gunny quietly wiped the floor and slipped away. Gunny pointed at Big Gunny, who was about to slip away, and said, "Go ask Big Gunny. She knows." Big Gunny froze and looked at Gunny with resentment. Little Gunny pouted and said, "If you don't tell me, I'll go ask Big Brother Naruto. Big Brother Naruto will definitely tell me." Big Gunny and Gunny's eyes lit up at the same time and said in unison, "Then go ask your Big Brother Naruto." Little Gunny pouted and walked up the spiral staircase to the second floor. She walked to Naruto's room and shouted cutely, "Big Brother Naruto, Big Gunny and Gunny said you don't like it when people flick your little earthworm." "Why?" She knocked on the door as she spoke. Naruto wanted to die. He felt like this world was no longer suitable for him to live in. "Big Brother Naruto, please open the door." "Naruto. Big Brother Naruto?" "Naruto." Downstairs, Big Gunny and Gunny pursed their lips and giggled. That cheap look was exactly the same as Naruto when he did bad things. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.